Welcome everybody to the Tango. I've got it wrong already. The Torchlight Tango tournament. My name is Agro, and with me in beautiful form is MDL casting his dispersions in the background, but the voice and face I'm sure you're likely to see right now belongs to Lecter. Lecter, please do tell us how you're doing.
Hello everyone, I'm doing fantastic, thank you very much.
Okay, I can't keep that voice up for very long, I'm terribly sorry. Lecter, thank you very much for inviting me onto this thing. I am joyed to be here. I'm sure everybody watching here is joyed to be here as well. Can you please tell us a little bit about what it is that we're doing while I sup?
Well, today we're watching Torchlight Tango, which is the latest tournament. It's pyro-centric, and it's all about the Dragon's Fury.
I love a good bit of pyro-centric gameplay. Dragon's Fury being the kind of puff and sting type weapon, the one where you set people on fire and then you set people on fire again.
Yeah, it's very different from the typical flamethrower, which is just a bunch of spewing flames everywhere. This is more of a you have to be very deliberate with your shots, so it's a little bit more interesting.
Not so much the whole WM1, more like WM1, M1, 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 M1.
Yeah, a lot of different small little M1 presses.
Awesome. So presumably you've tried this out a little bit and done a few preliminary runs to get to this point. How's it been playing out?
Well, it's been very interesting the way the format developed, because it started as a small idea, sort of inspired by games like Rat's Instagib, kind of that idea where it's just a fast-paced DM-centric game mode. And then with the Dragon's Fury, we added the speed boost, and there are some cool secondary melee options. And most notably, we have the Gas Passer, which combos with the Neon Annihilator, which is a cool little combo that is specifically, with the plugin, so that it can crit as people would typically expect, actually, with the dowsing mechanic. So that's really cool. We have some other weapons as well, like the Man Melter, the Bag Scratcher, and the Extinguisher. So it's going to be very interesting to see the variety that people, the weapons they go with, and
the combinations and how they all play together or against each other.
Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of like little strategies, like the Gas Passer can obviously put people on fire, but then you can have the Extinguisher to combo with that. You have the Man Melter, which counters that, and you can get crits because they're on fire. So there's a little bit of like little interactions there. It's gonna be very interesting to see.
Yeah, one of my thoughts that immediately came to mind for me was if you're playing Pyro v Pyro, which personally I hate doing because like there's only one thing that defeats a Pyro. The natural enemy of a Pyro is of course a Pyro, because you can't set a Pyro on fire. They are unburnable. Except there's a little period where they are on fire, and if you're very, very good, you can get that extra little burn in. But have you combated this at all, or is this all stock Pyro from the anti-burniness, the inflammability of it?
Well, so with the Dragon's Fury actually has the cool attribute where even the Pyro will have a couple of seconds of afterburn. That's in the vanilla base game as well. We didn't need to add anything to make that work that way. So with the Dragon's Fury, it's just the way the weapon works, where you light someone on fire and you have like the little 2-second afterburn, and then you can crit off of that. And
nice.
So, yeah, it's very cool. And then the Gas Passer obviously adds the ability for actual afterburn, actual in the sense that you get the long-lasting 10-second afterburn, which can be very cool because then you have a very long window where you can crit people with your Dragon's Fury or the Extinguisher if you get up nice and close and personal.
Have you found that people have formed their own little stratagems so far? Is there currently a meta, or is it still to be discovered?
Well, I'm very curious to see. That's partially why I'm so excited to be casting this here today, because the mixes we did, we found there were little metas that would develop. There would be like a nice balance that would strike between the people that would use the Man Melter and the Gas Passer, because the Gas Passer is really good, but if you have too many Gas Passers, then you don't actually have any long range. You don't have any poke, right? The Man Melter is a great poking tool. You can kind of spam into the choke points and kind of chip down players before they really get to the point or get to the places where they want to have the fight. So if you have too much, but if you have too much of the man melter, then you don't have the gas passer, which means you don't have as much area denial. The gas passer is great at chucking it at the point or at a choke point and making it so that people don't really want to go there because then suddenly they can get crit by the Neon Annihilator, they can take the afterburn. So there's a little bit of like like a balance that gets struck almost naturally between the poke and the area denial. It's really cool.
I've never thought I'd hear the phrase. Oh god, I can't remember what it was now. It's something about poking. Too much poking. There's far too much poking in this gameplay. But
Yeah,
Pyro's poking is always going to be a good one.
it's a good alliteration, that's for sure.
Pyro poking, why not? And I'm hoping we can enjoy Pyro poking today. Let's have a quick look at the screen, though. I see a few maps being picked and banned. Is that? There's so many maps that have been available or made available for this particular Fortress Face-Off event. Should we have a quick discussion on what those maps are and what we're seeing on screen at the moment?
Yeah, so we have 5 maps in the pool, and they're all community maps. So they're all maps that most people won't be familiar with unless you're someone who goes out of their way to visit workshop maps or who goes to community servers that run a lot of these custom maps. And a part of the idea was to get lots of these cool maps that don't usually get spotlight, to give them some love and to get people to play on them and get them shown, basically get people out there to notice these maps. Because especially the map you're seeing right now, COD Hangar is a beautiful map. It looks really cool. There's lots of custom assets and a lot of hard work that went into it. It has a great 3D skybox with helicopters and planes. It's a fantastic map, and it's a very striking visual style.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I've seen a few sort of behind-the-scenes production versions of this with helicopters taking off and landing and all of that. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing this in action, seeing how it plays out. There's a little bit of a sort of was it Left 4 Dead type vibe to this map.
Yeah, it definitely does have that urban vibe, and you don't really have too much of that in TF2. So in that sense, it's a very cool, like a very unique, like a unique visual style that you don't really see as much represented in TF2. So that's very cool to see. I guess nowadays with Venice, you have a little bit of that, but it's still something that I would say is a little bit underrepresented in the cast of the typical TF2 maps.
Visit Sunshine. Excellent poster there. Brilliant. I mean, maps to one side, there were a couple of maps being picked and banned. Is that because players have decided that they don't want to, they're not as strong on those particular maps, or is it just a case that I don't know, that they're pushing towards the great one that they all can feel sort of a sense of community around?
To be honest, I'm surprised that the first ban was Valor, because Valor has been, as far as I could tell in the group stage, been a very popular map, as well as on the practice servers. People seem to really like the map because it has for one, it looks good, and it has like a dog in the spawn, and it has like doves and stuff. Like it has a really cool visual elements as well. But the gameplay on it is solid as well, and so I'm surprised that's the first thing people banned. I'm really wondering what the thought process there is. Like maybe people scouted each other's logs, and maybe they played each other on practice servers, and they know something about the other team that they might prefer such a map. It's interesting because a lot of the maps they have they're all very similar in the sense that they have good pack spreads. Like there's a lot of HP because they're obviously Arno medics, so having HP available is very important. And then most of them have jumps as well, like little parkour things you can do specifically with speed boosted Pyro.
I was going to say, I played a bit of Valor myself, so I know that map somewhat. And you're right, it's very cost-centric. I mean, all of these maps are cost-centric anyway, by their very nature. But all of the action figures around that central point, and there's not a lot of places you can hide. But I suppose if you don't have to worry about sniper lines, and you're not being backed up, as you say, by a medic, there's no expectation that you're going to be living for a very long time. Your life is very much in your own hands. So having an open space is not such a huge problem anymore. It is more about how you move around that space and how you enjoy the small boost you've been given as part of this event, as part of this package.
Yeah, that's very true, and a lot of the points have little bits of cover and stuff like that you can maneuver around, that you can use to your advantage in the fight. So the fights become pretty interesting, especially with the movement speed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I genuinely want to see how these Pyros feel about playing Pyro afterwards, given that they're going to be moving around the map as if they're effectively as if they were scouts, they've got that kind of extra little oomph to their step. But feeling a little bit like they're the superstars because obviously they're the only players, but also because they have the strength and purpose of being able to do such destructive power. It is an underutilized process of setting people on fire and then really making use of the extra burn and the extra crit potential. But I think that the players themselves are going to feel so empowered at the end of this, and I'd love to see a sort of before and after, a player before they played this mode and a player after they played this mode. Would be quite an interesting transition.
It's definitely it's like a very cool little game mode I found, because especially with the movement speed, it becomes very like almost, I mean, it's difficult to wiggle yourself out of fights, but at the same time, because you're so fast, you're very slippery, right? So someone with good movement, let's say, they can really get in and out of situations, and then once you have some understanding of like how far away like packs are and things like that, then you can have some really cool like almost like you can really plan out some engagements, like, oh, I can, sort of block this point for a couple seconds, go and get a pack, then wait for my team, and then we push back into them. Like, there's some really cool leveraging there.
Awesome. I can't help but notice, well, apart from anything else, that the map has been chosen, which is going to be Canopy, which I'm sure we'll have a quick conversation about before we go live. But I'm watching the screen at the moment, and I see that you're wearing some beautiful merch.
Yeah, this is yeah, it's a Chris Cassidy. I'm glad you noticed it. I'm sure I'm sure you specifically found it very cool.
For sure. As soon as I saw it on screen, I was like, I know that merch. I know that guy. That is awesome. Thank you very much for that purchase. But yeah, let's have a quick look at this map, Canopy.
Yeah, so this is Canopy. It's a very very pretty looking green type of map, kind of the Borneo visual style with the green and the wood. And yeah, the point, the central thing around the point is the fact that there's a little bridge going over top of it, and we'll hopefully see a lot of like little fights between like the high ground and the point. And it's yeah, overall the map doesn't have terrific flank. Like some of the maps have some flanks that you can use to get behind pretty easily, but this map is not really one of those. Everything is very like funneled to the center, so going to be a lot of action around the point, and I doubt we'll see much action beyond the point, really. People don't really tend to push up too much to the spawn area.
Yeah, I'm seeing, I mean, all COD maps kind of end up looking a little bit similar after a while, but there's sort of almost a viaduct tone to it, with it being like the spawn area is one subsection, and then mid is a very sort of long, elongated middle area, with the focus being obviously on the point itself, and two sort of subsections, you're saying, concrete and grass with the flank area. I think you're right. I think it's going to be very, very intense fighting. There won't be a lot of opportunities to like wax lyrical about the individual teams themselves that are playing. Speaking of which, we have got a couple of teams that have upped themselves to the Oki, as it were, which is Puff and Sting and Highsick. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it might be pronounced Hisk. I'm not entirely sure. It might be an abbreviation, so then it becomes a little bit scuffed.
Yeah, the K is capitalized and so is the H. Can we Hisk?
We might need to interview one of the players and see what the lore canon way to pronounce it is.
For sure. Have you had an opportunity to see these players beforehand?
I have seen some of the logs, and I've played against some of these players in the practice servers. So especially the Puff and Sting team has Frylock as the leader, and Frylock is a reoccurring visitor with the Fortress Faceoffs cups. And then Puff and Sting also has Garden Fungus, who's a Premiership Pyro player, or at least he played Premiership Pyro for SCCK at some point. Maybe last season, maybe the season before that, I forget. But yeah, he's a very experienced player, and this experience is visible in his logs. Like he's been dropping some really fat logs. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that these, especially Garden Fungus, is probably about to drop. He's gonna be doing pretty well. That's what I'm thinking.
Dropping a fat log is probably the right phrase for that, but yeah.
Yeah, especially when you don't really know the slang, it sounds
It does.
it sounds very appealing, I'm sure.
Adulations to one side. These players are definitely hanging out at the moment. They're a man short, or a person short, I should say, from being ready to be live. So we are waiting on that individual to rock up. I'm kind of hanging out and watching these guys play. It is frantic, to put it mildly. Which is kind of normal for you guys. Fortress Faceoff does have a tendency towards having very frantic gameplay. Um, have we now got to the point where all of the players have had their 1 versus 1 matches? I mean, I know that I was here for Spy. This is Pyro, obviously. Has
Oh,
everyone had their chance to shine?
you mean all the classes, if they had like a format dedicated to them? So
yeah.
we've had the Huntsman format, which was a Bowman Brawl, which was a Huntsman-centric format where you had like a backpack of choice and a stock melee weapon. And that was all centered around the Huntsman. So the Sniper has been in the spotlight. The Heavy has the festive fisticuffs, which is a heavy melee-centric with the funny laughing gloves.
Yes.
So we had the Pyro format, and we had the Spy format.
We
I
did.
think that's 4. So there's definitely some classes that can still get some attention here. Oh, yeah, we also had one centered around the Scout, which was based on the Sandman ball, which was you just one shot everyone with the ball. It was arena.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very interesting as well.
Have you had any sort of unexpected creations as a result of this? Any kind of opportunities for gameplay improvements that have arisen? I mean, talking about sort of the Huntsman as being one version of Sniper that exists, have you found yourselves thinking, well, there's definitely a need for a guard dog, for example, or some sort of Terminator class?
Well, I mean, the Huntsman Cup, I found it to be very interesting because I used the Huntsman a lot around the time that the tourney was announced. And so having a format where you're just using the Huntsman became very interesting. And I remember talking to a bunch of other Highlander players, and they also found that format was very balanced. It was like it was a pretty vanilla format, and so it became very interesting almost for high level play, right? Because there was a lot of like dancing around each other arrows, trying to bait out shots, and then sort of like the choice of, do you go for the sort of like the easy 120 damage body shot, or do you maybe go for an uncharged arrow headshot and then one shot them? Like there are some cool dynamics there. They have also customized some of the maps to have the torches from the melee only game mode, the group keep. They have the torch that you can use to light your Huntsman on fire.
Yep.
So they scattered those around on some of the maps, and then they added the Darwin's Danger Shield so that you would have fire resistance. And for those who don't know, if you light a Huntsman arrow on fire, the whole arrow becomes fire element. So the Darwin's Danger Shield suddenly you only take like 30% damage from the fire arrow. So there is this dynamic between, do you want the regen from the regen backpack, or are you going to maybe go the more like the counterplay with the fire arrows and then be a little bit more tanky?
Yeah, I think possibly we're going to see some very interesting elements be discovered while we're playing this game as well with the Pyros today. I kind of want to draw back down to the Pyros now that we have them on screen, or at least now that I have them on my screen. I'm not sure whether the Twitch audience is lucky enough to see this build up. But yeah, there's the frantic is an understatement, but also the element of playing around your team and setting your team up for success by not just focusing on the player that you're going up against, but also on other opponents that your teammates are going up on. The idea of using a gas passer, for example, to give your teammates a better chance at capturing a point or holding a point or creating a distraction or something of that nature. These teams, if they are used to playing as teams and not just as DMs, then perhaps we'll see some interesting strats come out of that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential here for some good coordination, because the nature of the weapon, where it lights you on fire and then you can get crit by the shots, that lends itself to people taking lots of 2v1s and little fights like that, where you can essentially one-shot another player if you're outnumbering them, because they have just so much fire coming in at once, and then the fire will suddenly crit, and it really becomes very scary to take fights where you're outnumbered. So if you're able to coordinate well and set up those ambushes, set up those sandwich positions where you're suddenly taking a 2v1 that they didn't expect, or maybe because the fire also penetrates the shots from the Dragon's Fury, they go through players. And
Hmm.
so if you can suddenly find a couple of players in the same spot, you can do a lot of damage very quickly. Combined with the fact that the Dragon's Fury gets faster fire rate if you land shots consecutively,
Oh
there's some
wow.
real potential for some crazy plays. You can play it very safe and go for lots of team fights, but then one player who's hitting a lot of shots can also just be a menace to several players at once. So there is on one side there's a big like what do you call it a big emphasis on team play and taking fights together, but then one talented player can also pop off and really do some damage.
That is kind of awesome. I think the question that immediately arose in my mind was: did you say that you could fire through players?
Yeah, the Dragon Tree shot it doesn't stop if it hits one player. So if there's four players walking through the same choke point and you're shooting at that choke point as they're walking through it, they'll all take the shot, and that can be
Wow.
very detrimental if you're not spread out properly.
As a career pyro, I'm finding out things about the Dragon's Fury that I had no idea about before. Apart from anything else, just watching this stream at the moment, it feels like a ASMR version of Team Fortress 2. It's all the hoofs, hoofs, sound effects. So this is going to be
Yeah,
it's a soothing way of watching Team Fortress 2.
yeah, the,
Uh,
the
I'm
pyro
I
the
hope
pyro being he's not very talkative, so it's definitely just a lot of like funny noises as opposed to other formats where you would have actual
yeah, the
actual words being
discussions. Yep.
spoken. The pyro is literally just a bunch of mumbling. Yeah, so it's it's definitely an interesting listening experience.
Yeah, I hope if anyone's trying to use this to get to sleep, that our voices won't get in the way of that joyous experience. Um, the Yeah, absolutely gorgeous stuff. And as you say, it's not really going to be about the singular player. It's going to be about the team experience and how that all sort of fits together and works together. Presumably, these teams have hung out and played games before. Well, it's a what is it, 4v4 format?
The format is supposed to be 5v5.
So
We
we are
started out
missing a
with
few.
4v4 when we
Okay.
were testing internally, actually, but we found that 4v4 it's a little bit it's not as chaotic, right? Especially 5v5 with the speed boost, it becomes very chaotic, very messy, and that I find that teams that are able to really make the coordination work in like a more chaotic setting, that sets apart a really well coordinated team from
Mm.
a lesser one. So that is yeah. So it's very chaotic in with the 5v5.
Yeah, I can absolutely see what I'm getting myself in for here. Um, I was not prepared. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's some of these players, they're very experienced players, either when it comes to the Pyro class or just the game in general. So some of the people that made it to playoffs, I figured out that they actually haven't really used the Dragon's Tree much, but it's just that they have so much experience playing the game that
Yep.
they were learning lots about the weapon and the way the format plays uh, as they were going along and like kicking ass. So it was very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see what these players are going to bring to the table. If we see any cool strats that I hadn't invented yet when we were playtesting, or maybe even things that we didn't even see in group stage. Because there's always people that come up with little strategies in their own private servers, and then they'll sort of like hoard the strats until playoffs because they're
Yeah,
comfortable. They know they're going to make it to playoffs, or they're very comfortable, like they're very confident in their ability to make it to playoffs, and so they'll
without
keep
using the
the
strats. Yep.
yeah, exactly. And they'll keep the best strats for grand finals or something like
Excellent.
that, right? Where it really matters. So I'm hoping there's some cool stuff there. I'm hoping some people cooked up some strats there because there's some real potential there.
For sure. I'm thinking now that we're seeing on the screen all of the players just getting ready. So they're in MGE mode at the moment. There's no respawn time waiters. Presumably that doesn't carry forward to the actual game itself. There are going to be moments where players are waiting to respawn.
The respawn mechanics are very similar to normal King of the Hill, where the attacking team has the faster spawns, the people holding the point get the delayed spawns,
Yep.
and similarly with the respawn waves, where if you die all at the same time, then the respawns will be synced up. But if you sort of like delay and stagger, then you'll get people spawning pretty much singled off, and you'll have to wait much longer for your whole team to get back up. Because as we discussed previously, like running in alone, you can make it work if you're landing all your shots and you're finding the right fights and things like that. But generally speaking, you really don't want to be going into a situation alone. It's just way too scary. So you really want to wait for your whole team to come in and then push together.
Speaking of waiting for the whole team to come in, it looks like the players are all here. I think we might be starting shortly. So, in the build-up to this, do you want to do a quick a team run-through, or if there isn't enough time, should we just get into it?
I think we're
Nope.
starting now, so we're a little bit late on that.
Here we go then, and welcome everybody to this event for the Fortress Faceoffs. It is myself, Aggro, together with me there is Lecter, and we are casting some Pyro on Pyro action.
And we're seeing the first fight pop off. There's a big rollout going through the red side of connector, or concrete, I mean, sorry. And then now the fight has moved completely to the mid. Seen some picks, but no, it's very balanced still. No team has really won this yet.
Yeah, Fylock managed to get themselves killed off fairly early. That was a bit of a 1 versus 2 action, but it seems that is not representative of how things have played out since the Puff and Sting team have managed to take and hold the point for the first time. They are now looking to do a little bit of a forward hold, and they've got themselves caught out in a pincer action, a pincer movement.
Big fight going on grass. Some crates though. Blue still on the upper hand.
Garden Fungus was most definitely holding their own, unfortunately overwhelmed by the sheer volume of players against them, and yet still has left themselves in a great position where they have both the upper and the lower ground. Eat your heart out. It is Star Wars all over again. While we see Spooky just desperately trying to hold off and provide a little bit of offensive action while waiting for the rest of the team to respawn and come back onto the point where they are now holding and taking it. The time is most definitely going to start ticking down in their particular direction, but not quite doing so. Here we go. They've managed to take the point, and now they're going forward into the action, trying to force their way forward, trying to make a real difference here, and pushing in with all of the might. I was almost going to say something about Pyro, as if that was some sort of identifying class tag. It is not. They are all Pyros.
Yeah, there a lot of people that will use the cosmetics to identify each other, but that might be a little bit too much. It looks like blue is pretty dominant right now, though. The red team did recap at some point, but they didn't get very much time off of it at all, and blue basically got a recap right away.
Yeah, it's not a very fast capping midpoint. I have noticed that. And yet it seems like with both teams in full-on action at the moment, Hysync, I think, possibly is getting a little bit on the positive side. I see what you mean about classes being burning for a great deal longer, though. And now it's a 1 versus 2 in this midsection area. Talk about being caught out in a bad place. That is unfortunate for Hysync. They find themselves moving in as a 1v4 scenario. It's never going to play out very well for them. We see the entirety of Puff and Snuff going for... Oh, it's Puff and Sting, my apologies. Puff and Sting just moving forward to have this amazing, fast, like really far forward hold.
Yeah, they're super aggressive here. You don't really tend to see this. But it's working out for them. They're getting the frags, and now they're just able to use their numbers to their advantage. They even got... Oh, they got someone all the way in the spawn.
Oh, that is appalling. That is the most BM I've ever seen in one Pyro versus another. I think they're going to try holding again in the same position. Can you explain to me how they all seem to have full health?
Yeah, well, one of the main melee weapons that people like to use is the back scratcher, because it sort of mitigates the lack of a medic, so it really helps the health economy. So you can just grab one half health kit and you'll basically be full HP pretty much every time. And so they're really able to use their map control to their advantage and take take all the half health kits and make sure they're healthy before every fight.
Well, speaking of being healthy before every fight, we have one small, lowly liquidator trying to desperately hold a point on their own against two very, very aggressive Pyros. and that didn't seem to work out totally well for them. But there still seems to be a good bit of action on this midsection, with Pyro hanging out on top and doing a little bit of like positive action of their own, setting fire to this poor lowly high sync team, and that is the first point going for PNS.
Yeah, that was a pretty dominant display by PNS there. That they won the first mid fight. They had one instance where Red was able to recap, and then after that they just pretty much held it down to the end.
Exactly seems to be the way. Those players are definitely enjoying the positive results of capping and holding that point. But as we move into a second mid-action point, there seems to be a big separation between players across top and lower ground and air sections. And I think, despite everything, HiSync might be making a good move towards dominating this midpoint. Although Const got left out on their own. Here we go. We're seeing a little bit more with Fish moving in on his own. It seems to be the case that you can't do DM. There's not enough space. There's not enough real estate to do a DM action. As soon as the action picks up, there is going to be multiple players versus multiple players.
Yeah, but the red team, they're not really seeming to do the same thing that blue was doing, where blue was very aggressive and taking all the space and trying to push all the way up to the spawn. Red instead tried to hold closer to the point, and it doesn't really seem to be working out for them.
Nope, they've got that kind of eye that says, got to take and hold mid for as long as possible, and the best way to do that is to be on mid. That doesn't seem to be the case. That doesn't seem to be the winning strategy. And now just one lowly, scared little Pyro out on their own. Did I see one Pyro blowing out another Pyro?
Yeah, that's where kind of where the Man Melter comes in, because the Dragon Story Afterburn does count as a normal Afterburn, so you can actually stack up lots of crits if you're taking up a more supportive role. And then obviously with the changes in Jungle Inferno, where if you extinguish a teammate, you get the 20 HP, then you can get lots of crits on your Man Melter and sort of help your own health economy. So there's a little bit of a strategy there, where if you don't want to take the half health kit so that your teammate can maybe get like 130 health with the back scratcher, then you can heal yourself for 20 HP with by extinguishing, and you get a little crit out of it as well. So
HiSync now looks like they are thinking like very seriously about how it is that they should be going forward on this map, trying to stay together a little bit more than they were doing a few moments again. And it seems to be working out for them. They have the point, or at least they're stood on it at the moment. Frylock not wanting to give it away for free, but now we've got a few Pyros coming in across the top section, able to push and be effective, getting all of the HiSync players out of position.
Yeah,
and now
Frylock
it's
did a
back to
great
2v1.
job. Frylock did a great job there, stalling the point, blocking it so that his teammates could come around from the back and just get some numbers in. It's a really good example of where Air Blast can help you stall at the point, help you block, and then you can get your respawners in.
3+4 times on the point. Managed to get a good capture in there for HiSync. They've finally got to a position where they're able to capture the point and all be alive at the same time. Although they are now facing up against Spooky, who is very definitely wanting to get in there and get some action done for them. But from behind, here come the gorgeous Spooky and Fish, moving together as one sort of unit. You never really see these guys playing apart for too long.
Yeah, it seems like Red Team is getting picked apart here. They did try to take some more space there and trying to contest the enemy flank, but being a little bit more forward and taking fights into chokes. But they got overwhelmed in the end. But it was a little bit better than the last time they capped, that's for sure.
For sure. Like with the points at the moment, we're seeing about a minute down, and this is only like a best of two, or first to two takes it. So the HiSync can't afford to sit back for any singular moment. They've got to keep pushing and pushing hard. But
yeah, if they want a chance to win this round here, they really need to get together and start capping this point. It does seem like they're trying to group up more before they push, instead of going one by one and getting caught out. It looks like they're waiting for everyone to respawn and then pushing together, which is really what you should be doing in the game, because it's so easy to get just blown up in a 2v1, blown up in a matter of seconds, really.
With this map as well, it's very easy to get separated from the rest of your team. It is more a case of you've got to move together as one, because that's the only way you're going to find your teammates. the time it takes to get out and get around and do the pincer action might be too long. But even now, I'm looking at two players, Psylocke, facing off against unfortunate Vin and Iving. I'm uh, came in behind and finished them out, and now we see that PNS not only captured the point twice and held it for as long as they humanly could, it was enough for them to guarantee themselves an absolutely deserved win. The PNS do seem to be a team to watch out for. They are playing most definitely as a team.
Yeah, that was a very dominant display by Puppenstein. That was a I was especially the start of the second round. I thought maybe Hisk is going to be able to do a little bit more and maybe even get the round, but it was a small moment, and PNS quickly showed that they're the dominant team here. They put in a good they put in a good display.
For sure, for sure. I mean, Hysink definitely showed that they are worthy of being here in these quarterfinals. But as you say, Puff and Sting, they seem to be absolutely on top of the game, dominating not just the point itself, but also dominating through their teamwork, through the sheer sense of solidity of a team moving together almost as one. A fish with many heads, but only one tail.
Yeah, and there's some moments where you where you would see different picks on different sides, but I think the blue team generally capitalized better on these little situations where they realized like, okay, we have a little bit of player advantage, so we can just send someone behind because they don't really need to be taking the fight head on. We have the other players to support that. I think red team generally they played a more basic game, so yeah, generally think I think Falkenstein just played it a little bit better in multiple different ways. Like it wasn't just they're hitting more shots, they were playing the map better. I want to say.
Yeah, and I can see why both teams would have wanted to play that map as well. It's a very tight map. Although there's a lot of openness to it, there's a lot of good sight lines. There's when it comes to the actual areas that you're playing around, you're playing around a rock, or you're playing around a building, or you're playing around a corridor. These are all great points to play around if you're a Pyro. You love these small, entrapped, enclosed areas. But the idea that you can see a very great distance, you can communicate to your team where players are, and then perform these amazing kind of pincer movements where you're swirling around, you're using the map to its greatest capabilities, and creating for yourself the conditions for you to win are all most definitely on display in this map. A great little map, a great little number, and I hope we get to see it again.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, we're going to be seeing Puppenstein in a future round, so we'll probably see more of what they did in this one. At least they keep up their A game, of course. But I got high hopes for them. They look solid. They seem pretty coordinated. They're landing the shots. They're taking the fights.
For sure.
They're playing the map control as well, mid-maxing the HP and all these like all the positions. So yeah, they put in a really good performance there.
Well, we have certainly got the logs available to us to have a look at. Is there anything on here that you're seeing that is really sort of standing out to you at the moment?
I need to pull it up real quick.
Well, for me, while you're doing that, definitely some amazing work by Fish, getting a massive 15 kills off with only 4 deaths, and that's crucial really at this stage. You know, you want to be getting the kills, that's always good, but being able to stay alive, make sure that you're the last man standing, and then get out and get some health. That's incredibly important. As it says, the only way to win is to make sure that you're the last man alive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Not only Fish, it was also Garden Fungus dying 4 times, and then Spooky only dying 5 times. So there's a big difference in players and their ability to stay alive between the two teams. Looking at the damage numbers as well, so on average people get about 200 to 300 DPM. Those are average stats. So when you're seeing a player like Spooky almost dropping 400 DPM, that's very impressive.
Yeah, that's big numbers. That's big eating time. And I guess it's interesting as well having the look at I was going to say the losing team, the second place team, Isaac. their numbers aren't so great, but obviously there's going to be more opportunities to have lower scores. But Vin having a massive 11 kills, their kill to death ratio of 1, the perfect score of all, is a bit of a standout, possibly an opportunity for them to move to a greater team next time this is played. This is never going to be played.
Well, yeah, I noticed that as well. He has a really high DPM compared to the rest of his team, and then looking at for instance, the amount of health kits he took, he has 15. So his ability to stay alive in between fights is a little bit higher than the rest of his team. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think we could probably move away from logs at this point. There's only so much information you can glean from this. Winning team won, not winning team didn't win. I think we already knew that from the gameplay that we've seen. Let's have a quick thought about the next game we're going to be witnessing then. Is it going to be Goof and Pro? What are we looking at?
The Goof Troop versus the Professionals. Let me. I have a log of these players.
It looks like they have already begun making their picks and their bans. Goof Troop banning Valor, and Professionals banning Canopy. I don't know whether Professionals were watching that last map and thought, nope, not for me. So they banned Canopy. It's only time will tell where they will go with the maps next. I really do hope we get to see that airport map, and that's a genuinely interesting map to be witnessing, and presumably casting on as well.
Yeah, the hangar has some cool dynamics as well. There's a flank on hangar which is very often not contested. And so if you're the only team on your only player on your team up, it can be pretty helpful if you manage to get behind using that area that people don't tend to defend. There's a lot of packs there as well, so you can make sure you're healthy, and then you can be behind before the next fight starts, and that can be a very helpful thing, being able to essentially pincer them right off the bat.
Yeah, having the ability to regain your strength and then be able to move out from a place that isn't spawn or isn't mid is a great deconstructor of an enemy's strategy. So the map ban seems to be stuck for us, so we're not able to see what they've chosen. But hopefully that information will be restored to us shortly. So, do you think
Something we're not used to.
Do you think they've got enough to get them through to the grand final? Do you think they're going to be there?
Well, it was a very dominant display. I don't really know how the HIS team, how dominant they were in their group stage, but I can imagine that if HIS was an average team, then the display that PMS put up was very good, and then yeah, we might see them they might have what it takes to take it all the way to grands.
I would love to. I'd love to be able to say I was there. I casted them, while they were mere pups in this scene. So yeah, hopefully we can see them play again in the near future, and presumably we will see them play again in the near future, depending on how these things work out. So yeah, it's very unfortunate to see you guys go. Looking forward to see what you come up with in the next version of Fortress Faceoffs, which is of course it's the world's most obscure and bizarre league, where you have no idea what it is or how you're going to be playing until the next season runs around. Produces just quality concepts.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery there for sure. There's a lot to speculate, and a lot of the times the players as well are able to come up with great ideas that might be molded into a new format. It's very interesting.
Part of the joy of being part of Fortress Faceoffs, which is of course always viable. Presumably, if someone were to type Discord in chat, then they might get to see themselves where it is that they can sign up. I'm saying these things as if someone's going to do it, so I can't imagine Yep, there we go. Somebody's done it, and it has. It's provided the Fortress Faceoffs Discord server. Please do join and make your voice heard, make your presence felt, and join in and play the games. You don't have to be a viewer anymore. You can watch. You can be part of this thing. You can be part of the greatness that is Fortress Faceoffs. The opportunity to discover Team Fortress 2 in ways that you never thought possible before. There goes a free pitch for you.
A little bit of a plug there. It's good. Good work. Get the people into the Discord. I'm sure there's some people in here in the chat that have never seen it before.
For sure. It always is. I'm always surprised, taken aback a little bit by how few people have seen so much of all of the awesomeness that is Team Fortress 2 and the very many communities we have on screen. We know what the final result is in terms of what was banned. Valor, Canopy, we already knew about being banned. Relic and Sandstone. Relic is another awesome map that we had a chance to play at TF Connect this year. Sandstone, I have very little knowledge on, so maybe we get a chance to see that as well. But it looks like Hangar is the chosen map. The carefully predicted and forcefully enjoyed experience of Hangar gets to be ours. In just a few moments. Very much looking forward to seeing what Hangar actually breeds in terms of gameplay.
Yeah, we were just talking about the map as well. I mean, I think out of all the maps, it probably has the coolest visual style, the most distinctive one. I mean, maybe on par with Relic. Relic has that's the map that looks like an excavation site. It's a cool aesthetic as well. But Hangar definitely very striking when it comes to the planes. The 3D skybox has like all these things flying around. There's little references to other TF2 maps, like, you should visit Sweden and visit Sunshine. So there's a lot of these little cool details. Like, it's a great map.
Absolutely. I mean, the joy that the map creator has shared with me, on every time that they've done a cool little extra thing, is be like, look at this, I'm doing this thing. So yeah, I very much applaud map makers and their creativity and all the effort that goes into just generating this awesome experience. But this one in particular seems to be something. I love all of the kind of aviation style maps that exist within the Team Fortress 2 community. Some very impressive things have been done in the past. And this is no exception.
Yeah, so the players are joining the server now, and it looks like we have some reoccurring customers here. We have Frylock and Gardenfungers also appearing in this match. So I'm not sure if they're murking right now or if they're murking in the previous round, but it's going to be a little bit interesting to see if maybe that team wins now again, because then we have two teams that were both relying on these same two players. It's going to be interesting to see what happens then.
Yeah, do we find ourselves in a situation where teams have to play or players have to play on both sides? Does it become a 3v3 with two extra players that can dip in at any moment? I've heard of have players providing their services for multiple teams, shall we say? But this is next level.
I'm reading here that Frylock was playing for PNS and Gardenfungus was ringing last round, and now it's the other way around, where Frylock is ringing and Gardenfungus is the roster player. So yeah, there's a little bit of sharing players going on.
I'm wondering if this is a way of guaranteeing you get some time in the grand final by playing for every team.
I mean, it's not a bad strategy, you know. If you really want the time like on camera, then yeah, it's playing both sides definitely might get you there.
It's a way. Let's see if it pays off for these players. I'm doing a bit of a zooming around the map at the moment, having a look for myself where all of the med packs are. There's a bit of health and ammo in the plane itself. And I wonder whether the plane has got some messages about safety, but I can't see anyone having gone to the effort of reading those pamphlets.
Yeah, I don't think safety is a thing that the Pyro is very concerned with. It doesn't really. I don't really see that in the Pyro's character either. So I doubt these players care too much about that.
There's a magazine that says airplane engineers, put your engine, and that's all that we can see folded over. I'm wondering whether put your engine in the off position before opening the doors is probably one of the messages that is hidden to us. And unfortunately, nothing exists within the crew quarters. So no instructions or no flight controls. Nobody is flying this plane anywhere. It is all about the med pack and the ammo. Where else should I be looking for health pickups?
So on the far side, if you go past the point through the tower, then there's a luggage area, and the color for that one is well, luggage.
It's
So it's
luggage.
very
Sure.
simple. There's two half packs there, which with the back scratcher are basically full health kits. I think it's about 80%, 85% of your health. So it's very rare that that won't put you up to full HP. There's also a big ammo pack there,
Yep.
which can be helpful for those players that manage to stay alive a long time. I don't think the ammo packs are particularly something that sees. I don't think they see a lot of use in this format, though. It's such a fast-paced and frantic experience.
Well, it looks like these teams are readying up now. The prereq is going on, and I think we're going to see the teams running out to mid at any particular moment now.
Yeah, we're
This
seeing
is
the blue team is rolling out to luggage, which I actually find I want to say that's a bit of a strange rollout almost, but you know,
they're taking the
they
long
do.
way round. They're enjoying the airport experience.
Yeah, it does seem to be working for them. They have the high ground on the point, and they're trying to use the high ground to their advantage.
Well, I think
Kind of
they're hanging out on the high ground when there's no opportunity to take the point, and now that the point has an opportunity to be taken, I'm not sure that there's enough of them left to take it. That said, they are very much in high spirits at the moment. We've got I've got Yuho and Health Hazard coming up the underside way, trying to get in, and not really making advantage of the numbers they've got, although they are going up against Garden Fungus. Garden Fungus retreating to luggage to try and pick up some health for themselves, manages to stay alive and go in again, possibly on their own, although these pro players very much staying together, hanging out in this midsection. Nobody's managed to take the point yet. It's a very hard fought fight to try and get themselves back together again. Although Benefactor going up against Yuno on the midpoint has now found themselves looking into the jaws of defeat with Health Hazard and Yoshi working their way back around. The blue point finally being taken, or the point finally should be taken, I should say, for the blue team. It is now theirs to take. And Google Frost is trying to do their best to defend and hold that point against attack, and going down for their efforts. Garden Fungus going up against this red team is very furiously defending it. The blue team now in a position where they do not want to give up this point under any circumstance, although they do have to concede because Health Hazard is proving the very trueness of his name.
it was a really long initial mid fight there. Then it swung to the favor of blue side, but then it kind of stayed a back and forth. It's just been this very long-winded fight around the mid.
I think what we're finding is that with the midpoint having such a long time to be taken, and whether that is a point of the map or whether it's just the very nature of the Pyros needing to be, there's no scouts to try and cap quickly. Oh, a new point. It seems like everyone is coming in through plain side to get onto the point. Finally, for the first time, we're seeing almost all players just descending on this point at the same time. Are we going to see Frost dominating? They do seem to be left out on their own. It's a chilly morning for Frost, where there doesn't seem to be any teammates backing up. Here comes Frylock, jumping in from nowhere to do the damage. Takeouts.
We saw a melee kill there, very exciting. I think that's the first time we've seen a melee kill in these past two games.
If you've got it, fling it. And if you can't fling it, swipe it. That's what I've always said. And nobody understood what I was on about until this very moment. And even then, I think that I might be slightly confused.
It does look like the red team is still struggling to get their point time in. The blue team just holding the point for so long at this point. There's a minute deficit between the timers here, so that's a very sizable advantage for the blue team.
They do seem on the blue team to be looking at the idea of taking the opposition out and then capping versus the stratagem as it seems to be with these pro players, where they go for the point first and then try and take out their team opposition later, which doesn't seem to be working out for them. Makes them very predictable. A predictable foe is a dead foe, is what I always say sometimes when I'm not saying the other thing. Health Hazard left out on his own, unfortunately trying to run away, trying to find some sort of some sort of way of surviving this onslaught. Is not going to find it, but we do find Garden Fungus a way out in the departure board area. They are doing as they have done before with a very fast forward hold, and a drop down by Yoshi forces the situation to turn around once again. Frost gets to be burnt to a crisp. Not a frosty morning for him. Frylock going in again, finding themselves out on their own, but not entirely, because there is a bit of backup coming in the form of a currently outnumbered, outclassed, out-serialized player of the name that I can't quite see, but he has got a beautiful lo-fi that I'm being distracted by.
Yeah, it's a nice hat. I know lots of people love it. Lots of people want it. But it
They
does look
can't
like
have
blue
it.
team is
They
blue team does
can't
clinch
have
the
it.
first round.
Indeed, Goof is taking the 1-0. And we are going to be restarting this map in just a few milliseconds. In fact, before I have an opportunity to finish this sentence, they will see the players jutting out of their start area. Once again, descending on midpoint, the team of Goof going the longest possible way. I don't think they know the shortcuts yet, but it doesn't seem to make a huge deal of difference. Jason Lee going down almost immediately.
Yeah, the blue team got an early pick there because they all grouped up and went into baggage, and then they found the one player who went baggage on their own, and then they got the pick, and now they got the second pick as well. So it looks like they have a lot of momentum here in this mid fight. They're getting the cap. They're taking a little bit of forward space. Though I was kind of surprised last time we didn't really see anyone pushing into the lobby or pushing into the gate. Like people can stay, the blue team, like they stay pretty calm outside. Like they're not really pushing up too far. They're not taking all the space they could be taking. Maybe they know that that's the better way to go on this map.
Well, 3-Res for the first time, I think, today, certainly that I've seen, got an opportunity to utilize the gas passer and used it to full effect. Not able to get a kill from it, but still able to walk out and manage to pick up health. There is
Yeah,
sufficient
oftentimes
health.
the gas passer isn't really something you'll get a frag with, but just putting people, dousing them in gas is essentially the same as fragging them because they won't really be wanting to take a fight while covered in the gas because it's such a big disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Crowd control or the ability to manipulate the area to your own advantage, definitely something to be looked at. Speaking of manipulating the crowds to your own advantage, the clock has not even begun to tick in the side of the Poffs. It is all on the Goofs. Goof seem to be dominating this round on this map.
Yeah, the Goof Troop even pushing up into lobby right there. They with the three players going into lobby and trying to find some early action. It seemed to work out for them. They didn't really bleed any players as a result. They seem to have a good beat on what they can get away with.
Oh, you say that now, but here we are. Caster's Curse coming out once again. We see ourselves in a situation where Rez is outnumbered. Can they manage to escape this? No, they cannot. I think Yoshi was very pleased to find themselves able to pick up the health pack and actually now capping the point, finally. Is it going to go their way? Are they finally going to be able to stop this? Only a minute left on the clock. Caught out on their own. Fungus going in. Not just Fungus, but Fungus +1. But Fungus +1 is now Fungus -1 and even possibly minus Fungus. Has Fungus had the opportunity to stay alive long enough to get to the health back? No, he's not. Crocs takes him out. Grox takes him out. And finally, we see ourselves with a situation where maybe, just maybe, can it possibly be? No, it can't. My goodness me. Yes, it can. Here we are, Health Hazard on the point on their own, and an opportunity to capture. It's gone their way. Finally, the clock has started ticking down in the eyes of ourselves, but not to be seen for too long.
Yeah, they're really stabilizing now. They got a lot of time there. Even though at some point they were outnumbered and the blue team had some respawners coming in, they still managed to hold on to the point, making good use of the air blast and the fact that you can knock people off of the high ground and then they have to walk around. Yeah, it was good. It was a good use of positioning there, and they almost got a minute off the clock now. So,
well, more than that, they seem to be holding onto the clock. Although the clock, speaking of which, Caster's Curse calls once again, and here we find ourselves in a situation where we are back to the blue clock ticking down. Health Hazard on the point with trying desperately to get a kill in. They do get one off on Frost, but that's not going to be enough. Health Hazard goes down to almost everybody gets their teeth into Health Hazard. Health Hazard only seems to be a health hazard to themselves.
We're seeing a little bit of flank play, trying to pick a fight behind the point, seeing if they can maybe pincer the people on the point. But it doesn't really seem to be working. It's turning into a weird 1v1 behind the point on the enemy side. Though they do seem to be finally walking onto the point and getting that point time.
Yep, it's definitely going their way. Goof, Garden Fungus, I've never seen this person move in less than a two-person combo for any long time. They are on the clock, on the time at the moment. This poor little Jason Lee is trying desperately hard to get them off, cannot do so. It seems like we definitely, most obviously do have ourselves a winner, not just of this map, but also the entire.
Yeah, the blue team there did a great job of denying the overtime. They they cleaned up all the players and air blasted them off and made it so that they had no time remaining whatsoever, so that they could just end the round right there. No final fight, no overtime, no reason to get no nervous moments where you have to get that final push in, and there's like this moment where your team might the team might make the mistake, or there might be too much pressure and they might not be able to perform. No, they just cleanly finished it.
Yeah, professionals, for me, I saw them doing a lot of work where they were trying to push forward, trying to push the enemy team off the point itself, as if somehow that was going to give them an opportunity to score. When the Goof Troop were really putting all of their effort into getting the kills in, making sure the enemy team doesn't actually exist, can't pose them any kind of a problem, and then taking the point and then controlling that point. Where professionals seem to be much more about, let's focus on the point, let's play the point, which is a valid strategy, but only against a team that isn't moving together as one. And as these players, the more they play, the more they realize that the ultimate strat is to play together as a team, to perform or form these groups of twos and threes, and move together as a little troop themselves, a sort of a mini onslaught with each single pass. And sure, you might find yourself in a situation where you're left alone, and then your priority is to get out, find some sort of health pack, find a teammate, and then move out with that teammate. But the idea that you can do a 1v1 and then roll that into another 1v1 or 1v2 and come out of it alive, come out of it smelling of roses, doesn't seem to be the way that these things are playing out. This much more so than any other game mode. And I think realistically, from my experience of playing Team Fortress 2, a Pyro on their own is a dead Pyro. Versus a Pyro with a team is a very dominant force to try to encounter.
Yeah, it's funny that even in this game mode it would apply when it's such a more well, the Pyro typically is more of a relegated to more of a supporting role. In this, obviously, all the Pyros are just trying to frag out all the time. But the thing that when it comes to playing the point so much is that you do run that risk of getting well, it's very easy when you're playing a small area like the point. Then it's easy to get gas thrown at you. It's easy to get spammed out by man melter shots, and it's easy for those collateral Dragon's Fury shots to hit multiple people and to just do massive damage. And we saw little bits of all of those in that match where the red team was playing the point so much that it was a little bit easier for blue team to take those fights and win those fights because well, the enemy movement was going to be pretty predictable. They weren't really going to go off the point because they were trying to play the point, maybe a little bit too much even.
Yeah, you get this thing, the tunnel vision, when you're playing Pyro, when you're moving forward constantly. And I think the map we saw extenuated that quite clearly, where there's lots of corridored areas, there's lots of sort of bracketed spaces. Even on the midpoint itself, which theoretically you have lots of great sight lines, you can see for a long distance, you can see without actually having to be on the point what the condition of the point was. But it's still bracketed by two fences or one on either side, and moving into that space itself. As soon as you arrive there, you feel like you've got to take and hold. You've got to stay on that point. You've got to be at that point. But as soon as you do that, as soon as you lose the context of everything else that's going on around you, the opportunity to pull back for a moment and to play together with your partner, play together with someone else who is on your team, and you can provide like double the amount of literally firepower against the enemy. I'm not sure that's a deliberate pun, but there we go. Deliberately provide twice as much firepower just provides you with so much more opportunity. It's like rock climbing. If you try and cling yourself against the rock, then you lose all options. But if you push yourself away, suddenly you see the full stone in front of you, and you can
Yeah,
see the
very well
handholds that
said.
weren't there before. So yeah, I think we've seen some interesting things coming out of certainly of Puff and Sting, out of the Goof. There's a lot of similarities in gameplay, although part of that surely is because we've seen a lot of the same players move between teams, and it's going to be very interesting now because we are going to see Puff and Sting versus the Goof Troop, trying to figure out how their teams are going to be constructed. Presumably, can be taking players from other teams to come in and fill the gaps. But what we haven't seen, or what has played out secretly before we had the opportunity to see it, was Pyrotech versus Sting and Puff, or S&P, which actually ended up being a default win. So Pyrotech, which I think they've deliberately chosen to have a logo that looks a little bit like another Sixes team that exists in the world. Perhaps we'll see that at some stage. But they've gone through and now find themselves in the semi-finals bracket, up against a couple of, or potentially one of two teams, the Soup Schminglers and Mad Watch This. Super versus Dunk, which we hopefully will have an opportunity to see on screen at some stage in the near future. I was wondering, before we get there, should we? Could we? Is there going to be logs? I don't know whether there'll be.
I've opened the logs on my own. I don't know if they're going to be shown on the screen, but I can put them
Perhaps
somewhere where you can see them.
Yep, that'll be awesome as well. I'm wondering whether I see some logs myself. Let me have a quick look at those. It does seem that all players seem to be playing as Pyro. I'm not sure if that was a mistake with the logs. No, that's how it is. Yeah, there's it's very, very clearly it is definitely a Goof match. Benefactor seemed to be noteworthy on the Goof team as not getting that higher a kill count. I wonder whether that was Benefactor playing specifically a defensive role, or if they had allocated themselves as being the default corpse for their team.
Yeah, I mean they didn't die. They didn't. It's not like they died the most. I didn't see them specifically a lot, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I do see that Garden Fungus again is at the top of the scoreboard, so he's very dominant in his performance.
Which I think is going to play well into their match when it's Puff and Sting versus Goof.
Yeah, this was the team that had Garden Fungus as not the Merc, not the Ranger. So this is his actual team. So him doing better in the confines of his own team. That's a good sign for the later rounds for them, I think.
Absolutely. Well, not necessarily as him being on that team, but also him being able to work well with the team that was those people. As in, his team gameplay is being potentially up from when he was merely murking. But yeah, nonetheless, yeah,
it's a different map. So maybe he was able to play the map better as well. I mean, he only died 3 times, so there's some definite. He might be Hangar might really be his map. That might really be his that might really be his thing to
for sure.
The Hangar map. So we'll have to keep an eye out, see if the Goop Troop, if they pick Hangar a little bit more, or if they try to go for that map a little bit more, because their star player was doing very well on it.
Sure, I think we might find that getting banned very quickly though.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yoshi, a bit of a standout as well. As being a player to watch in the future, the potential for that player to go out there and get quite so many kills on a losing team is really kind of, it points towards a solid player. Whether he is the individual who caused that many kills, or whether it was part of his stratagem to hang back and play as 2 or part of a 2 or 3 band. Like the winning strategy, whether it's his strategy or his DM that managed to get him to such a high position, do not know. But either way, very interesting.
Yeah, I noticed the also, yeah, they have a lot of damage, but not a whole lot of frags. So it looks like they might be the player who runs in and tries to take the fights, and then the teammates try to clean up. Um, Also, just looking by some of the other stats, we can definitely see that Yoshi and Yuna are the two that are most present, I guess, for the red team. They were trying to put in all the work, but fortunately wasn't enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's always difficult when you're looking at logs at this kind of level where you have a clearly very visually obvious dominant team, trying to pick out like the benefits provided by other team players. But as you say, Yoshi and Yuno, a good pair, a good couple of players within their team, doing a lot of damage. It's weird in a way that Yoshi has, sorry, Yuno has so few kills when they're doing quite so much damage. So perhaps being part of a pair doesn't necessarily play out in terms of like your ability to get the final kill, but playing in such a way that you're setting your team members up, doing a lot of initial damage and then moving away and letting someone else take the kill. That is also a valid stratagem. It's also a valid way of playing, and it's great as a team member. It really proves yourself, and it's only really that sort of information that's available through the logs themselves. You can't necessarily see it when you're playing, but if you can point to your own stats and say, "Hey, look, I was definitely playing. I was definitely putting in the damage." It comes good when you're looking at the salary hikes at the end of the year. This fictional universe that I'm living in my mind. It's my own canon. Let me have this canon, please.
But it definitely reminds me a little bit of the role of the entry fragger in CS, for instance, where there's the one player who goes in, who gets the info, who maybe hits a couple shots, but then probably gets taken out because he's the first guy to check everything. And then you have the
Point
teammates that can land all the shots, they can work off the info.
Yep,
And so we kind of see that divide between those two players on the red team for sure.
for sure,
I was look,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I was checking as well for the melee weapons, and it's correct what I said in the match. There was a 333 Res was the first to get a melee frag, and he actually managed to get two in that
Oof,
match. So that's very cool, to see,
impressive.
because it's hard to make the melee work in this, because people
Yeah.
keep you at range with air blast. The Dragon's Fury obviously has a little bit of range, so it's difficult to get in.
You're almost penalized as well for moving away from that primary fire weapon, whereby you can only really get the additional damage done if you're getting like chaining the kill, chaining the fireballs. If you go from fireball to fireball launcher to not fireball launcher, you're effectively removing a tool from your toolkit. So it is a very definite and deliberate choice to make, to go onto a melee weapon which doesn't actually have the same kind of reach, doesn't have the potential for doing multiple damage of multiple players. It's a very focused. I think I've got this. I'm deliberately going to move away from this weapon onto another one, and yes, I finally got the kill, or no, I didn't, which is unfortunately going to be much more likely the scenario. So for you to say, I'm going to go this. I'm going to take this approach. It points towards a sense of your own self-understanding and self-worth, and validating the logic, your own headcanon of where you stand within this fight. So yeah, very definitely a thing worth pointing out, and please continue to do so. It is something that we hopefully will get a chance to see much more of as well.
Yeah, I hope we see some other melee weapons get some love too. Those I've not seen very much of the other weapons. It's mostly been people picking the back scratcher and taking the utility for the health kits, the extra health, the health economy. But I've seen a little bit of Neon Annihilator. I'm not sure if anyone has gotten a crit yet. I'm not like I can't really tell that too well from the logs, but no kills with it so far. So, and then no extinguisher either. Which it's funny because you mentioned
It's a shame.
the fact that the primary would only combo into itself, but it would also combo pretty well into the extinguisher. But
Yeah.
obviously that combo is much harder to pull off than just shooting them. So
But it always looks so much better on the kill feed as well. I love a good axe covered in
yeah,
red
and
on the kill
the
feed.
speed boost that the scout speed that people have from the start is different. It's not actually the same like the whip speed boost, like the condition that you get with a whip speed boost. So the extinguisher makes you go really fast if you manage to get a kill with it. I think it's you might hit like the 500 hammer units or something. It's pretty insane. and that can be very scary if someone manages to land the axe and then suddenly they're
Scoots
able
off.
to do a lot because they're so fast.
Awesome. Hopefully, we get to see that as well sometime in the future. What we won't see in the very near future, though, is Relic. It has been banned by Soup, and Mad, in almost in retaliation, has banned Sandstone. So I think we actually have a bunch of other maps that have also been banned, but Canopy, it seems to be the one that has been chosen to be played by this new lineup of players. It is, of course, Soup versus Dunk, or Soup Schminglers. Am I getting that right? Can that
Yeah, I think
ever
it's
be right?
Soup Schminglers. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a tongue twister. Definitely one of the harder names to say. So it's
We get teeth for that one. Soup Schminglers, and the other one, Mad question mark. Watch this.
I think it's Matt Watch This Dunk.
Oh,
With
really?
the
Mad
dunk
watch this
being
dunk.
with dunk being the
Yes, I
team
see.
tag. Yeah.
Ah, cunning, cunning, cunning. All right, I see it now. Apologies for not seeing it previously. So we're returning once again to Canopy, a favorited map created by Fry, who is a very accomplished map maker in the world of Team Fortress 2. Has been doing this for a very long time. You can definitely see it shining through, not just in terms of the art pass, which looks gorgeous, by the way, as it should do, but also the sense of movement around the map, which we commented on before. But a very proficient and reliable map maker,
Well,
turning their hand
you
to
that,
skills.
I quickly looked at the list of maps that they worked on or made on their own, and it's a very impressive list. They have some very beautiful things that people might be familiar with too. Things like Sunshine and then Reckoner, which got added recently in the summer update. There's obviously Sunshine, which is the
Yep.
Halloween version of something. There's a lot of stuff here that I recognize, either from the community maps or just the base games. It's a very impressive little portfolio they have. Well, calling it little is definitely an understatement. It's a lot. It's especially for TF2 mapping.
I would certainly put them up alongside someone like UAK Crash in terms of the number of maps that they've had a hand in, and the kind of impact that they've had on map making in general. The number of early or creative map makers who have looked to their maps as being some sort of a reference is quite definitely a thing. Yeah, so once again, a return to Canopy, another opportunity to see this map to its fullest, hopefully played out to its fullest. I wonder if Soup and Dunk were. Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody say drink?
Beverage redeem. All right.
Well, I'm currently supping on a guacamole gamer sup, so I don't know what else you guys are drinking.
I have
Yes.
some unhealthy beverage of choice.
Oh.
Just caffeinated, keep you going.
Well, whatever it is, whatever it takes. Thank you very much for that hydrate. Very much appreciated. And now that I know that there is a hydrate to be redeemed, I will abstain until the next hydration comes. So thank you very much for that. Looking forward to one in the future. Right. So yeah, Canopy. Wonder whether these two teams coming up now, Soup and Dunk, have been watching the earlier Puff and Sting versus Isaac match. If they've come up with their own stratagem to do some sort of damage for themselves.
I definitely recognize some people from the Dunk team, the Watch This Dunk team. Some of them play Highlander as well. One of them is Grip, which some of the people in chat might know because he has been playing Premiership Highlander Pyro for a pretty long time. You might be familiar with him as well because you've obviously been around the casting scene. You've probably seen some of his wonderful highlight where he becomes friends with the pit on CP Steel.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
classic.
Yeah, I wonder whether or not that's a short that's been made, but if it hasn't, it definitely has the opportunity to be so in the future. Yep, Grip, a very well-known Highlander player. I'm pleased in a way to find that there are like Highlander players or even competitive players in general taking part in this. That's a certain degree of, I want to say professionalism, but I don't necessarily mean that. I think more an idea of team play as a reality versus as a necessary component in their everyday Team Fortress 2 gameplay versus something that you pick up from playing pub. And I think that is something that is definitely to be heralded as really the way forward when it comes to this kind of style of Team Fortress 2, where it's literally teams versus teams. It is literally quarterfinals, semifinals, perhaps in that order. Yes, in that order. I got it right for once. And then grand finals. It is people wanting to do well, not just for themselves, but also for their teams, and hoping to get their teams into the next bracket and move on and potentially be there when all singing and all dancing takes place. So, yep, that is definitely to be appreciated. And I hope we get to see a lot more of that gameplay in these coming moments.
Yeah, part of me is already almost like hoping that we get a face-off between the team that has Garden Fungus and the team that has Grip, because then we have the show-off of Premiership Pyros, and we get
Oh,
a real cool taste of who is the truly the greatest Pyro main in ETF2 Highlander.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's the pyro main of pyro mains. I think that's this is truly the opportunity to see extraordinary gameplay at its fullest. If ever there was an opportunity for pyro to shine, surely it's now, and surely it's here.
And we have Garden Fungus in chat saying that Grip wins every time, so that's
Uh, I wonder whether that stratagem in itself, setting himself up as being, oh, the poor little guy who doesn't stand
exactly
a chance of
yeah,
winning.
putting himself down as the underdog so
Yeah,
that
that's right.
people might might expect the other thing and then come out as a surprise. It's
Just kind of hoping to maybe set Grip's expectations of what their gameplay needs to be in order to win a little bit lower than it should be, and then so Garden Fungus has an opportunity to rise above it, to surprise Grip and surprise everyone else in his superiority.
I mean, who doesn't love an underdog story, right?
Oh, I
That's why
mean,
people like the spy so much from TF2, because he's well, he tends to be the underdog. He tends to be the class that gets bullied a lot, especially by the pyros. And
well, I mean,
people love the spy
he
for these
is
reasons too.
he is the most flammable of classes, and so should always remain. I couldn't believe it when they gave him a weapon that made him. I was going to say inflammable, but that's the same as flammable, isn't it? Made him flame proof. Yeah. So very, very, very angry at the old Spicicle. But there we go. That is my own personal preference. Again, career pyro. I've got to take offense at every time the game nerfs the pyro, which seems to be a great deal. But look, with this, we have exalted the pyro to the level at which they should be appreciated by all team members. I think everyone should play pyro all the time. I think any other class that does exist should only really exist in like elevating the pyros. And speaking of elevating pyros, I think we find ourselves in a situation where these two teams are about ready to go. There's suddenly 5 on each team, so it's only a few moments before they decide to finally ready up, and we find ourselves once again seeing with our own 2 eyes what is better, soup or dunk.
Yeah, we were just waiting on one of the players on the blue team to update their name, and there it is. So should be starting any second here now.
Indeed, here we are counting down the moments before we get to experience and see with our very 2 eyes, our very own 2 eyes. Your eyes may be different from mine, but we know that they are definitely there as we move forward to the last of these matchups in this particular round. On Canopy, my name is Aggro. That guy over there is Lecter. We are going in hard now.
And we saw a little bit of a split rollout. We saw a 2-2-1, and basically both teams did the same rollout where they had 2 people on the flank, 2 people in the main, and then 1 person on concrete.
And I've just seen Banana and Private and one other super member rolling in like some sort of elite team of champions. Although as soon as they
We already have
moved,
a melee frag on the board,
oh,
and it looks like red
fantastic!
does come out on top.
Yep. The team that was brilliantly moving in as one immediately split up as soon as the ground was encountered, like water hitting a stone. They scattered and died as individual steamy elements. But now, once again, another mid fight. this entire Dunk team seems to be holding, doing the thing where they try and hold mid by holding onto mid, literally ganging themselves up, gunking themselves down, and it's working for them.
Yeah, there was a moment there as well where one of the blue team members managed to get behind and try to do a little bit of a flank play, but they found him out. They turned around and he evaporated in an instant. So they're doing a great job of coordinating and punishing the people that are the people on blue team that are going in one by one.
I think a little bit of the pyro sensibility of constantly looking out for a spy seems to be getting into them, and they're finally realizing that actually nobody is going to be appearing out of nowhere, and actually they can rely on their eyeballs. And finally, unfortunately, Grip is seems to be outnumbered by about 1,000,000,000 to 1.
Oh, one just got
Eventually,
launched into the skybox. That was amazing.
they're walking in the air. They're walking in the midnight sky. And finally, Soup find themselves with an opportunity to capture this point out. They've got 3 on the points at the moment. There's nobody contesting it. And of course, why would there ever be? Although they have finally managed to do the inevitable and capture the point for themselves. Frylock going out of their way to
Yeah,
provide some sort of positioning
he was
and
very
figure out.
aggressive there, trying to get something going in the spawn, but it didn't seem to work out for him there.
Although, having said that, maybe that was just a tricky way of leading the team, expecting the team to follow in as a big chunk, and they've separated out, and in doing so, managed to find themselves in a bad situation. Kiddo left out on their own versus a private man who is trying to do a flank, although finds
Oh,
himself
yeah,
flanking
Frylock
against
does.
himself.
Yeah, he
Uh,
does get taken out in a 3 or 4v1 right there. That's kind of what you expect when you're so far deep alone with no teammates to support you. You kind of expect that they'll group up and they're just gonna take you out.
Oh my goodness me! That was a 1v1 negativity versus private man. They traded, they traded the kill and the death, and I think much more so than any team we've seen so far. These two teams seem to be fairly well balanced. Um,
Yeah, this is looking like a good back and forth. The red team got basically half the timer run down, but then after the blue cap, they haven't really been able to set a foot on the point yet. So it's definitely looking like a good back and forth.
Yeah, Grip managing to hang out long enough to pick himself a good health pack up again. Again, split themselves up into 2 little teams. It's only really when a team with a player gets themselves separated that things turn negative for either one of these two teams. Frylock is now the sole purveyor of death and does not survive for very long. Frylock and I'm a stupid idiot. Um, has definitely proved the value of their name in going in on against 4 team members. A forward hold not quite as aggressive as we've seen in other rounds, uh, but Dunk definitely being aggressive as much as they possibly can get away with. Here come the power of Soup though, and Soup is not to be squandered. Although Frylock left alone far too much, does seem to find the warm end of a flame and goes down for their trouble. Pat,
There's a very scattered fight with players getting behind on either side. Red players on blue side, blue players on red side, and a fight on point. It's a very chaotic moment.
this speaks to me of a lack of communication, a lack of stability.
Yeah,
The blue players, once they have captured a point, once they've formed themselves up as a group, rather than splitting into smaller groups, they split into the smallest possible group of one and go off in 5 separate directions. Um, which is just not the strat for this gameplay at all. Even now, we're seeing 4 team players gang up against one poor little Soup, and is the Soup I think is getting burnt. Somebody has left the gas on too long, and all of the power of the Soup has been evaporated.
yeah, this is actually the closest match so far. The both the timers getting below 1 minute in the first round already. Like we're seeing a very intense game here. Some red
I,
players chasing the blue player into the corner. Gonna get cleaned up here most likely. No, he actually
no,
manages to get out. He's so slippery.
he picks up a health pack around the corner, and that is enough to put him in a very good position. Now, again, we're seeing a little bit of the gas coming out, the gas parser coming out and blocking off that entranceway, that exit way, long enough in order to force the enemy team to go in a different path. Uh, all on the mid now. We're seeing the time come down, and the announcer is declaring that only a few minutes or a few seconds left, and that is enough to force teams' hands. Warrior, oh my goodness me,
Yeah,
Banana Warrior just being
the red team
cornered.
capping this, and they have a big player advantage, so it's going to be very difficult for the blue team to push in. As a
I
matter of
don't think
fact,
they're going to in
the
time.
last player didn't even attempt to touch the point. No, it was a done deal. That was the first
Pat
round for the red
knew
team.
the writing was on the wall. There was no opportunity there to force the entirety of the team off. Pat knew that that's what they had to do. They had to stand back and allow the team to capture their points. Now we see ourselves rolling out for a second time, not for this map, but certainly for this match. The entirety of both teams seem to be descending on midpoint as we speak. Banana
The blue
Warrior
team
left
already
out
sitting
on their
2
own.
players behind, but that typically means that you're leaving the rest of your team to fight at a disadvantage. So, but it did seem to sort of work out. It's still a very balanced moment, but I think the red team could be taking 2v1s here to turn this back into their favor. As a matter of fact, they did, and now, but they do end up getting cleaned up by the 2 players that were behind.
Interestingly, the point hasn't been captured by either team, so nobody has a disadvantage in terms of spawns. I think they're relying on that option of really just forcing their team members to be available. Super Pat on the point at the moment, though, almost managed to get it fully captured to their side, which is quite interesting considering the entirety of their team, including themselves right now, is down for the count. Privateer Man going out, choosing this opportunity to go out on their own versus the entirety of Dunk, surviving for a few moments, incredulously, inexplicably long enough
Just get
to.
cleaned up at the end of at the tail end of that mid fight. I must say that is a very long mid fight and a very chaotic and a very strange one with lots of weird flank plays and people getting cleaned up behind and little 1v1s and little 2v1s. Like that was probably one of the weirdest mid fights we've seen so far.
Absolutely. As we've seen before, it only takes a few sort of corners to get yourself in a bad position from a previously good one. Chasing players or backing up is the strat, certainly for this. Get a few bits of damage in and then back up when you find yourself out of numbers and, until you're able to get back in again. See Grip doing that exact motion, getting them a lot of damage down and then relocating to find themselves in a good position again and then coming back in and taking Frylock down. Now the point has finally captured for blue. They lost a minute or close to a minute. Is that going to be enough to be in their advantage? Well, it's going to cause Frylock, who is waiting to spawn at the moment, to have a very long spawn time. So it's 4 versus 5 for a little while, but perhaps it's going to go out the wrong way for them.
Like,
Even while I was thinking about it, it wasn't working in the right way for them.
actually,
Banana
I
Warrior.
think we just saw mutually 2 players both dying to the gas faster afterburn of like either team. It's very interesting to see 2 stock flamethrower kill feed icons in the same little moment. You don't really see that a lot in the format because that obviously means that they died to the gas passer, and then that happening to both teams, like that was a very strange little situation there. A lot of weird things happening in this match, I must
Yeah,
say, but it is also a very close match. Probably the closest one so far.
indeed. I mean, 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes for both teams on the clock, sort of winding down from, which is, as you say, as close as I think we've ever seen this. I'm wondering now. Soup knows that they've got to get in. They've got to get this point. They've got to win this map, otherwise they're out. So I'm wondering whether the urgency is with them, and if that's affecting their gameplay at the moment. It's certainly causing them to be a little bit more aggressive than Dunk is purporting to be, but it does not necessarily work to their disadvantage. Certainly, with regards to when the point is yours, your own respawns are much slower. And that is something that maybe they are relying on at the moment. Well, it looks like the entirety of Soup is up at the moment. They have the point, or at least they're about to have the point. Yep, there it goes. But almost immediately things turn around.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, we saw Grip going behind and sort of taking like this 1v3, and then the respawners for Red managing to use that to their advantage and get the one guy that was still standing on point with a player ad. So there's kind of a distraction play with one going behind, but at the end of it, it seems like the Red still doesn't manage to get the cap going. So it stays a very close round.
Absolutely. Now there's a surge of these dunk players moving forward onto the point itself, trying to force some sort of a change into effect, and again seems to be super effective for them. I'm Stupid Idiots getting a lot of airtime in that particular pass. Um, but then they are now pushing out again against the point. They're doing the thing. They're doing the strats where they're waiting for their teammates to spawn. Unfortunately, they're on the wrong side of the map. They are out on their own, waiting for their teammates to spawn,
Yeah,
and
they're kind of just
immediately,
waiting to get sandwiched right here, but they don't act. They actually manage to
how?
slip out again.
How?
There's some very slippery
They're
players on the blue team.
super slippery. Speaking of slippery players, they've managed to capture the point back for themselves again. The clock is very much definitely ticking down in their favor, and at the same time they are holding so far forward. Although in a sort of split focus, Frylock finds himself out on their own. Privateer Man out on their own, being chased by a single player. Backs up onto what he hoped would be a perfect moment of capturing that health, but unfortunately was gunned down in that one moment, or fired down in that one moment. I'm not sure of the right phrasing.
It's actually pretty much the moment where the timers are equalized. We see Red really making a stance on the point
Descending.
again, so it just underlines just how close this matchup has been so far.
Indeed, and I don't think it's fair to say that it's entirely 50-50, since obviously one team is going to have a slight priority. But otherwise, we would never see an end to it. In my mind, at least, Dunk seems to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more coordinated, and a little bit more willing to wait for team members in order to make a good play. And we're certainly seeing a lot of play happening on the point at the moment. Pat moving in along with Frylock, going up against this unfortunate Naparus and Dunk negativity, trying to make some sort of play for themselves. Gets taken out, Grip out on their own, trying to do something very special. Isn't able to make any kind of massive effort. 6 seconds left, and finally the cap goes again the way of Soup. Soup is finding themselves in a great position, holding out, although there's a sneaky Pyro out on their own, hanging out in the background area of the blue spawn, waiting for the right moment to descend upon them. And now they move in. Now they're able to take some effect. And it doesn't work out for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't a good try. Clock is absolutely winding down at the moment. I don't think it's going to go easily in either direction, but finally Soup manages to make the plays, manages to make the time, manages to get the clock going in their favor, and finally Soup is proving their worth against Dunk. It is now 1 point to 1 point. It is all to play for in a way that we have not seen so far. Neither one of these teams absolutely dominating against the other. It is finally the point of points. This is what we've all been hoping for. This is the kind of gameplay we've been hoping to see, where so much of the effort is dependent on individuals making the mind to play together as teams.
Yeah, that was a very, very tense end of the round, and it's only going to get more tense for both of these teams here as they duke it out for this last round. There are some fights there at the end of last round where the red team was finding the damage, but they weren't able to clean up the kills, and so they ended up losing because they would just drop their own players and then not manage to follow up the damage that they had. So it was a very winnable situation, even for red there in the end. Like those final fights were, yeah, it could have still gone any way. Like it's insane
Absolutely.
just how close this matchup is.
Well, indeed, we saw from the point of capturing the entirety of Dunk moving around the back area, trying to make some sort of a forward play attack. Not in time, though, to do any real effective maneuver. Although, I think what we're seeing at the moment is it's almost a passive Dunk attack defense, where they're trying desperately not to be held out and not to be sort of captured or kept in the death scene for too long. But Soup is making a move not just on mid, but also on the joy of attacking and being a dominant force. Pat is. I was going to say Pat was going to get an amazing kill there, but they didn't. They did an amazing running away. Not quite the same.
Yeah, this has actually been a very interesting. The red team is actually doing a very good job at holding on to the point here. There were some moments where it looked like blue was just gonna waltz in with their player advantage, and then take over the point. But Red manages to clean up the frags where they needed to, and keep the players alive where they needed to. They're still holding on to this point. It's almost been a minute and a half. That's half the timer just down before
Absolutely.
the blue team was able to cap.
Well, Blue Soup finally managing to capture the point themselves, and they find themselves a man down as the entirety of Dunk moves together as one great big snake, one dragon, one fire-breathing dragon, out into the poor, defenseless eye sockets of Soup as they force their way in, and yet Soup is coming out as a dominant force. Who would have thought? Soup seems to be superior to the snaky power of Dunk. That does not compute in my mind. Speaking of which, Kibbo is just taken, just demolished, both on the back and the front. So much fire going into that one poor Pyro that you've got to feel for their tailor.
Yeah, the blue team on a bit of a forward hole here. Not too aggressive though, kind of backing out, letting the red team walk up grass, letting them take the space. So that I think that's a mistake here. Like they just let red basically onto the point without much friction at all.
Absolutely.
They even dropped the player while doing that. Two players now actually, and now the red team can just just slowly work away at this cap and get it. They
Yeah, for
did
sure.
drop one player, so they'll have the worst respawn there, as blue team has 5 players up to them in the respawn, basically rolling out to point now.
I think it's a mistake as well with the players that there's a desire to get on point and start capturing, even when they don't have the numbers to capture, and it leaves them in a position where they've identified to the enemy team exactly where they are, and not only exactly where they are, but exactly how many players they are at that point. As soon as you see a 1x on the point, you know there's only going to be one Pyro there. So you have a chance to get back in and get some opportunities to kill a Pyro. And who doesn't want to take that opportunity? Dunk, once again, with the capture being on their side, they find themselves with only 45 seconds to go before they can take this whole thing for themselves. And yet, it's not necessarily all going to go their way. I'm seeing a little bit of Privateer Man trying desperately hard to do well. Pat, out on their own, fighting the good battle of 1 versus 3 Pyros. How is that ever going to work out for them? And yet somehow it does. Somehow Froylock comes in, Banana Warrior comes in, and I'm dumb.
Yeah, they
Out.
the I am dumb stupid idiot. They went and they got behind during that fight, and then at the tail end of that fight manages to come in and get some damage in. So they're making good use of the pincers, that's for sure. But now they're the only one left, and they do end up getting 2v1. So I have to wonder
Yep,
how
Pat,
good
I was going to say
going behind
Pat.
actually was working out for them.
Pat, once again, the last Pyro standing on blue team. Soup is not going to do it. They're not going to be able to defend this point. And
Yeah, and the air blast coming out
down.
at the end of the round, they're very, very solid, just rounding it up, making it so that they cannot get any overtime. It's it's a very clean end to the match there. It could have it was a very close one, but in the end, the red team, they pulled it together. They put down a very, very strong performance.
Indeed, they did. I think what we can definitely say from that was that the players really had a strong and bold opportunity to make a stance, to hold themselves and hold their heads high. I don't think anyone performed necessarily badly, and we'll certainly see from the logs themselves as those come up on screen eventually. But I don't think either one of these teams can say, or any one of these players can say, I didn't do my part. But there were definitely key players that had more effect and more deliberate impact on the outcome. But any one of those players could have been on the winning team, and it was really just a case of inching their way, almost minuscule movements that made them just a little bit better, play just a little bit more conservatively, holding on to the health when they had when they had no opportunity to win, pulling back and then waiting for their team to spawn and then moving out as a team, doing all of the things that Pyros need to do, certainly within this format, in order to win. Those were actions performed by a lot of players on both teams, and it's just a case that Dunk marginally managed to beat out Soup. It got the closest we've seen so far in terms of two teams being perfectly matched. Maybe that was Dunk holding back their superiority, waiting, as you say, with those super strats that we're going to see. We're going to have to wait until the grand finals for them to see if they managed to get there. Or maybe it was something else. Maybe these two teams were just perfectly matched, and this is the finest we're ever going to see of this particular format. I don't think so. I think there's a lot more to be seen, but certainly looking at the stats now, um,
Yeah,
big
I've been
players.
staring at the numbers for a little bit, and there's some interesting stuff here. Like there's the two players on red that have which were Grip and Dalibor, which the much larger numbers opposed to some of the other members on their team. But then the blue team with a much more balanced spread when it comes to their numbers, with only Frylock really standing out above the rest, towering above them with his 337 DPM. That's he's the one holding the team together, or he's putting in all the work and just getting lots done.
You mentioned earlier the damage per minute sort of stats that we were expecting to see everyone kind of get the 200 mark on. Grip, massive damage per minute. The 377 just leagues above everybody else within their team. But as you say, Dalibor also doing a very good job. But nobody here is doing a bad job. We're seeing like close to a 188 is like the lowest score. Like it doesn't really seem to make any difference. They were both two good teams that did incredibly well. The idea that you can do damage, I think one of the things that I saw certainly within the Soup team is their inability to finish. So they've done a lot of damage. They'd gone up against a team player that was just doing very well against them, but not necessarily beating them. And instead of going in for that final blast, or going in for that final kill in whatever method that, whatever form that takes, they decided to pull back. That rather than chase them through and get the final kill, they'd pull back. Strategically, the right move. But in terms of actually finalizing the kill, finalizing the death, making sure that that other player that they're fighting against doesn't have a chance to go away and find some health, go away and find a teammate. That never actually happened, and it found obviously as a result of that there were too many players left on the team at any one time. And when you go and you know you're fighting against an entire team of pyros, an entire team of players that, while they may look different in terms of the hats they're wearing, you don't necessarily remember that. You remember you're fighting against a pyro, and one of the pyro has taken large amounts of damage. Attack the pyro is a classic call within a team. Which pyro? There's 5 of them. So the ability to sort of pull back and merge into this massive team of firepower and be one of a number of players is a strat in and of itself. And that was certainly something that was being adopted within Dunk. The ability to pull back before they actually die, before there's a respawn timer on your head, and make sure you're still alive. So for the next push, you're available, you're being part of the team, and you can move in on that. Amazing how well that worked out for them, and perhaps that's something that the next team that has to play against Dunk is wanting to look at, the chance to actually finish players off, to force the respawn time.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting thing, especially when the enemy team is holding the point, that you do get those frags, you do get that extra respawn time, that you get that advantage, right? Because that's the advantage that you're able to play off of when you're getting those frags when the enemy has the point. And yeah, seeing people capitalize on that is a very important thing. So
For sure, absolutely. Well, we're looking, I think, at the moment about the challenge list, the actual teams that are going to be playing. Puff and Sting versus Goof Troop. I think that's going to be a pretty interesting match, I should say, in terms of what the players are, how things are going to work out. What we haven't actually seen either. Although we've seen both of those teams, we haven't actually seen both of those teams yet. We just don't know how that's going to go. Pyrotech as well. We actually haven't seen them play. They got a pass, a bye into the next round, with Sting and Puff not managing to form a significant enough of a team in order to play against them. So I think the only really unknown within the semi-finals is this Pyro team, Pyrotech Pyro team. But in terms of what we know of what we've seen, do you think there's any one team that kind of stands out from this group of being like definitely in the grand final?
No, I mean the Dunk team, they put in a really good show, but it's hard to say because we haven't seen their opponents, so I can't really put with good faith put in a real prediction there, like that's kind of a wild card, really. And then with the other matchup, it's that the two star players were both they were shared experiences essentially, right? The one was merking and then was the main, and then the other was merking and the one was the main. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in their matchup. Which one ends up being the one that comes out on top? Because that's yeah, it was a very weird situation that we had in the quarterfinals. So yeah, I'm curious to see what's going on. I really can't make a prediction here. It's yeah. There's just too much up in the air. There's some wild cards. It's yeah. I'm it's yeah. It's very like yeah. No, like I said, I'm very curious.
For sure, for sure. I like the opportunity is very interesting to see some interesting stuff. So, there were voices in the back of my head. I'm not sure whether you heard them as well, Lecton, or if I am going insane. I'm hoping at some point somebody's going to put a hydrate in chat because I'm a little bit thirsty. But
There was one during the match there. I think I don't know if you partook in that one.
Oh, I don't think I did. Thank you very much. I'll sip on that while you tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, well, we're gonna go into a break for a little bit, and then after that, we'll have the semifinals, which, as discussed previously, will be Publishing versus the Goop Troop. And make sure to check out our socials on screen right now. If you do exclamation point Discord in the chat, you can join our Discord server. Lots of memes, and you can get to keep up with whatever is next up, the thing we're cooking up, the next format.
Absolutely. I think the few things to take away from that is obvious thing to do. First of all, while you're here, while you're watching this, please do subscribe. It makes a massive impact on the people that and all the effort that goes into Fortress Faceoffs. There's a myriad of people, of individuals who are just dumping their spare time into Fortress Faceoffs to be as good as it can possibly be. But look, if you're not a Twitchy type person, a small one-time donation through Ko-Fi, very much appreciated. I'm absolutely certain of that. Even if you can't do either one of those things, not a problem at all. Just dump a quick follow on the twitter.com/faceoffs or x.com/faceoffs if you want to have a smaller thing to type in. If you really want to rest those fingers, alternatively, I'm sure someone in chat right now is typing in !Discord and bringing up the link to discord.gg/BCTE47MRW. Just click on the thing and join their Discord group. Whether you want to be a player, a viewer, you want to contribute a few moments of your time, or just want to be told when the next event is going to be. All of those things, all of that information is always available through their Discord. Please do join in, be a part of the Fortress Faceoffs, and maybe one day, in the not too distant future, you can find your name being called by somebody who is barely capable of holding down a job. So there we go. Welcome to Fortress Faceoffs. This is awesome, and I'm very pleased to be a part of it. My name is Aggro from Critscast. I don't know if you've heard of Critscast. I'm not going to brag about Critscast too much here, but I will say Critscast. And there's Lecter after, also with me, doing the voice of someone who knows what they're talking about, as opposed to someone who can talk while they're breathing in. And along with the two of us, there's MDL in the background doing all of the button pressing, because main Dota lure is just too many words to say. MDL, thank you very much for being awesome and being a person capable and willing to press buttons. I'm hoping that at any moment we will be able to go for a quick break because I need to refill my Gamer Subs cup. Thank you very much for being here, others. We'll see you very shortly. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon. Hello and welcome back to Fortress Faceoffs. My name is Aggro. I am joined in the ethereal sense by MDL, in the much more real sense by Lecter. Welcome back to Torchlight Tango, the European semifinals? I think we're at the semifinals by now. And we will be seeing Fury. I'm sure. Lecter, how are you feeling? Are you excited?
I'm very excited. We got the semifinals coming up, so the matches should only be getting better than they already were. They were already pretty good. They were already pretty interesting. I'm just hoping we're gonna get to see some of the maps that we haven't had a chance to get in the spotlight yet.
Me too, me too, me too. And there was a hydrating chat, so I had to go for a little sup there. Thank you very much. To appreciate the hydrates. They're always good to have. Nice to stay vocally lubricated, shall we say. We shall, indeed. I was told during the break that I should definitely be promoting Critscast. I won't do that, of course. I won't promote Critscast, the Team Fortress 2 competitive channel thing. I'm probably in the way. Oh, never mind. I'm out of the way now. Anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity to say Critscast a few more times. Indeed, you buy Critscast merch there, including a hoodie with Balloonicorn wearing the shades. How cool is that Balloonicorn? Quite cool, I think so. Thank you very much, Lecter, for buying a hoodie.
It's a very swaggy hoodie. I could recommend anyone to pick them up. They're very comfortable.
Thank you very much for saying so. Do appreciate the endorsement of all good that is Critscast. I'll stop it now. Right, so Fortress Faceoffs. We have seen a few teams here provide us with extraordinary experiences, and hopefully we're going to see a little bit more of that in the very near future. Is it going to be Puff and Sting versus Goof, or is it going to be Pyro versus Dunk coming up first?
I believe it will be Puff and Sting versus the Goof Troop.
Excellent. Good to know that. Well, I'm staring intently at the server, waiting for these players to arrive and provide us with their puffy, stingy goodness and their goofy, loopy, whatever goofiness is. And while we wait to do so, I'm wondering, has a map been chosen for this particular offensive action? Lecter. Well, possibly not quite yet. As I am being reliably informed, they are picking and banning as we speak. Hopefully, we will.
All right, so we're seeing a ban on Valor, which is too bad because we haven't seen it yet. And then we've seen Canopy get banned, which is the map that we've seen twice so far. So we have good odds on seeing a new map here.
I'm not sure if there's anybody in chat has the opportunity to put up a versus, but possibly a poll will appear at some time, and we can maybe see what the chat thinks would be a good map to play, or at least to watch, and hopefully teams, when choosing, would be able to make their decision based off what chat is saying, because that's how these things work, as we all know.
Chat is typically the greatest source of information. Any Twitch streamer knows that.
Or not just information, but reliable information. True and valid, reliable information. It all stems from chat. Every great thought stems from chat.
Chat's wisdom is unmatched. There's nothing chat isn't an expert on.
I mean, there's so many people in chat as well, all thrusting their opinions in our general direction, from which we should only hope for a chance to tap into at some stage.
It does look like we got a ban on Relic. Unfortunate because we haven't seen Relic yet. Relic features a bridge that the capture point is on, so Air Blast becomes a very potent way of stalling out the point captures. Doesn't look like we'll be seeing it this round though.
Yeah, there's also an opportunity to yeet people off the side into, if I'm correct, shark-infested waters.
Yeah, it is true. There is a little death bit on the side, and as a matter of fact, there's a health kit there. So players will very often be enticed to take that risk and go over there because they have to do a little jump to make it, and the jump isn't hard to make, especially with the speed boost. But still, to get to the jump, you need to risk that. You're getting very close to the pit, and with the way Air Blast is now based on your move speed, you can get Air Blasted very far if you're even just relatively close to the pit. Then it becomes a risk to go over there. So it makes for a
Well,
pretty interesting dynamic
it,
where it's very risky,
it
and you
certainly
really have to
doesn't.
make sure there's nobody around.
That suspended or semi-suspended health pack off in the distance. Not only do you need a bit of extra boost to get over there, you need as much effort to get back. But speaking of effort to get back, we have seen a ban, unfortunately, on Hanger, so we're not going to see that again. But we do get to see Sandstone.
Yeah,
Yay!
you said an unfortunate ban on Hanger, but I'm actually stoked to get to see a map that we haven't seen so far yet. The Twitch chat gets to witness another beautiful map that's in the map pool here.
Yes, indeed, Sandstone. I'm desperately rifling through my notes to try and find information about Sandstone. Not only is it new to chat, but it's also, I think, new to me. Finally, something new to me that I haven't seen before. Well, this looks interesting.
Yeah, the map looks very much visually. It looks like Egypt, the CP Egypt. It has a lot of the Egypt textures and those kind of like the pillars and stuff. That visual
Mm-hmm.
style. And there's a couple of places where there's some really cool jumps and hiding spots that people can do, especially with the speed boost. So I'm excited to see if maybe there's some movement gamers that are gonna pop up and do some really cool stuff that that I've speculated is possible. Some of the cooler jumps that are more difficult to do, and some of the more unusual hiding spots that exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
verticality seems to be a thing that's very much present on this map. There's lots of opportunities, a lot of tight corridors, which again is great for Pyro. The ability to sort of pincer movement your foe between two into a corridor where there is no escape. That's great. That always causes like the panic to set in. But verticality as well, where you can drop down on the enemy, where you can create a visual path where you know where the enemy is, but you don't. You know that the enemy won't know where you are. After all, gamers don't look up. So there's a lot of sort of. I always regard Pyro as being the world's worst disguised spy, in that you only really are effective when the enemy doesn't see you coming. So if you can do the drop down, if you can force yourself to hide in a particular situation and pop out at them when their back is turned, or when they have no concept of needing to run away, then that's when you can be most effective. And as we've seen with Canopy, any map where there are not necessarily corners, but things that act as obfuscation or barriers between you and the opponent, things that you can sort of swirl around and create like a body block moment. Those are things that definitely need to be like taken into consideration and add to the complexity and dynamism of a map. So even though there are no necessarily moving parts, you yourself as a player create those moving parts, create those pillars, create those moments of excitement and generally awesomeness that is this 5v5 gameplay.
Yes, yeah, so Sandstone has a very striking mid where there's like these small pillars around, and we're gonna see a lot of fights that are that'll basically be sort of like these little ring around the rosy type situations where you're peeking out the left side, you're peeking out the right side, and you're trying to sort of like win that you're trying to be the better player at ring around the rosy in a lot of these point fights, and it makes for a lot of cool little mind games of like, are they going to do this, are they going to do that? So I'm looking forward to that. Outside of that, it's a relatively basic, almost like this 3-lane map. There's the main lane which will lead you to the point, and then the 2 lanes on either side of it which go past it. And yeah, it's gonna be cool to see which routes people prefer and how they're gonna choose to play around all the options they have.
Yeah, it's so disappointing as well. I mean, I'm sure you experience this yourself as whatever class you play in Team Fortress 2. If you think you've made a perfect strike, but out of nowhere a small pillar, a small like outcropping has decided to block all of your attacking, all of your momentum, all of the firepower, and suddenly this great play has just been like nerfed beyond existence. particularly when we're talking about like weapons that fly through other players. You perfectly lined up the ability to take out 3 players at once, and they all manage to stack themselves up behind a pillar, a tiny wheel, a pillar that you can see above. Gets all of the damage taken away from you. That is going to be super frustrating. It's going to be this massive game of tag, massive game of I want to say tic-tac-toe, but it's whatever it is that's going to find itself being played out for us live, for our audience, for our eyes to feast upon. And Sandstone as well being a kind of an atmospheric dark map where there's plenty of light sources to allow us to see what's going on, but plenty of shadows and plenty of dark places to hide in, to jump out from. This is going to be super interesting to see perhaps as a winning team. You've taken the points. You're not just necessarily going to be forcing your way forward, but you might decide to pull back into the shadows to hide, to see where you can jump out from.
Can I quickly bring up that there is a prediction in chat that has been opened. So if you want to make a bet and see, if you want to bet on your friends or the people that you think are going to win, then you have a little chance right now to make some to make some Twitch bucks, some chat points. So.
See, I'm going all in. I think on one team that might not necessarily have the winners located within them. Maybe I need to. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's put it all back into. This is my chance as a guest caster. I could maybe walk away with enough points to redeem my own hydration. Not be quite so dependent on chat anymore.
Well, I could redeem one for you if you want. You just give me the signal.
The signal is going to be a under armpit handshake, where a flag is waved in the general direction. But enough of that for a moment. We are about to go ready, and in fact, we are going to find ourselves experiencing the gameplay for our own 2 eyes. I am, of course, Aggro. That person over there is Lecter. Behind the mic is MDL. We are enjoying the semi-finals of Fortress Faceoffs Pyro Edition.
And it seems like right away we see a big fight centered around the high ground above the point, and it does seem like the blue team is very dominantly winning this one.
Yeah, that's PNS making a move to become the only living team right now. They're not just dominating, but they're fragging out. They're enjoying themselves. They're posing on midpoint. It's finally going to go their way.
There's a clean 5-0, not even dropping a single player, the blue team there. So that was a pretty dominant mid fight.
Yeah, that's a team that knows the map versus a team that is experiencing the map possibly for the first time. But as experience grows, as people get more wary and more understanding of what needs to be done, they're going to be fighting themselves a little bit more. Garden Fungus finally gets a kill. Finally, Garden Fungus placed themselves on the scoreboard for the first time and even does a little bit of a turnaround. There's a 1v1 on the actual point itself. The rest of the teammates, I don't know where they are, but Garden Fungus actually getting a bit of damage done.
As you see, there's a lot of dancing around the pillars and trying to poke at each other across the point. It's going to make for a very interesting dynamic. It looks like the red team does try to push in here, though.
Yep.
But they are running into some resistance.
Absolutely. Goof managing to not quite take that point for themselves. And in fact, the ticker timer has worked its way all over the place over this little exchange. Goof, again, going to make a play on this midpoint, but get themselves a little bit out of focus. Once again, PNS moving together as one big massive force. Here comes Goof though. Garden Fungus not willing to take this lying down, is pushing in on his own, going up against a similar team of size and dynamics and importance. Garden Fungus not quite going to be, I don't know, are they going to be a victor? They're definitely going to run away. It's the right move to make. But the control point is very much in Goof's hands right now.
Yeah, they did manage to get a cap in there, but basically as they capped them, they dropped 2 or 3 players, and their advantage was very quickly lost to the blue team, who is now once again working their way back into the cap. Only 30 seconds off the clock for the red team.
The blue team nothing.
Yeah, it's something, but the blue team is they have about a minute up on them, so it's a pretty sizable advantage.
I am very worried about my channel points right now, since Goof seems to be back on the back foot, as it were. Benefactor out on their own and finding themselves very much overwhelmed. Perhaps Frost was the one that took the final death for them, but nonetheless, here they come. They're actually going to make some sort of push towards mid, find themselves taking down Frylock. That is a good move for them, but it's still a couple of players hanging out in cave, waiting for that onslaught that's going to be happening. Rez out on their own, trying to do as much as they possibly can. 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2 versus 3. Rez, I can't believe Rez was still alive, and of course, Caster's Curse. As soon as we said so, Rez was immediately downed by this very aggressive offensive team of PNS. They really do know what they're about on this map.
Yes, it's a really dominant performance. I'm starting to wonder if maybe the bet you made is just a variation of the caster's curse, you know?
I clearly I didn't say I wasn't going to say who was going to be a winner, but it looks like I've goofed something up myself, and this is definitely not the right prediction that I could have made under these circumstances. Goof, who have previously shown themselves to be very valid, very strong players, are being just trounced on to the extent that even Frylock right now is goofing around by spectacularly playing the guitar as the first capture point goes to PNS, a dominant and dominating team by all accounts.
Yeah, there's the blue team wasn't even going super deep. They were just staying around the point and just picking those fights around the point, not going into the enemy house or taking the space on the red side. They really just played a very controlled game and got all the frags they needed to, and then so that they could,
Speaking of
play the
which,
guitar on point.
Spooky is took the very much the long way round to try and get out and make some sort of a special play. Now they moved in with I'm dumb stupid idiot, and that didn't seem to be a play that worked out terribly well for them. I would not be too surprised. In fact, there it goes. Goof finally getting not only just the point, but actually the priority on the point, the first to take it in this particular round, this particular time. And not only that, but it looks like the PNS team are working their way back in. They've done a lot of damage here. Rez is left out on their own, trying to defend this point on their lonesome, although a lonesome versus Spooky and Emir versus Frylock as well. Those three players managed to take down the only defense being offered at this time and capture the point for themselves. The red team of Goof were only able to get just over 30 seconds before
I'm
point
seeing some
flipped
hiders
over.
now for the blue team. They're sitting in funny little corners on ledges. They're getting ready for the ambushes as red tries to come in and push out the point.
We did talk about this, the possibility of hanging out on not just a full-on look at me, we're going to take you down, but actually, as you say, hiding out in the ledges, and making full use of the map that's available to them. This is a very high damage, high impact map where it's really a case of forcing teams to think of the team play versus the DM play. And in doing so, they've all moved through a tiny, weeny little corridor together and were immediately hit by a bit of gas passing. And I think that has resulted in a few deaths for the Goof team. A
Yeah,
single player left alive.
it seems the red team is having some difficulty even making it to the point now, as someone is cheekily hiding right next to the spawn door, is letting them
They are
pass.
waiting. They
And
have
he's just they didn't nobody checked the corner, and now he got one pick. He's maybe turning it into two here. Okay, they did manage to trade him out. They did manage to trade the second player, so now they're actually the red team is able to turn this disadvantage into an advantage, maybe.
all 3 players alive, 3 versus 2, and it should be a straight win. But Fish very much holding their own. If Fish is able to take down Dawson, they did so. My goodness me, they actually turned it around. Fish seems to be a standalone. In fact, Spooky was the last man standing on that particular point. And yes, very much a case of misunderestimating the enemy force.
Yeah, we're pretty comfortable around the point now, and blue really needs to group up if they want to get anything going here. It's just one blue player. He does somehow, the blue team does manage to find picks though, as they're all pushing in together and completely wiping the red
That,
team. Wow, that's impressive.
that's more than just picks. That's an entire wipe. That's an entire team down. And while the spawn time may not necessarily be with them if they capture, that was still enough to force a complete rethink from this red team. Goof are moving in now. Emir, I think, did the whole hide behind and wait for them to go past thing. Didn't quite work out for them that time. In fact, the very much the numbers in Goof's hat right now. 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3. Spooky holding their own, making a bit of an impact, ensuring that that point is not going to be captured until the last moment. But now we see the timer very much being in the court of Goof Team. Although, having said that, it's only really Rez that's left alive to try and do any defense. Rez and, of course, my mistake, one other, but still, an exchange happening on mid where the respawn timers aren't really gonna be with Goof because, of course, they've got the points. So every damage, every life that goes down is a life that is going to stay down for quite some time. Right, PNS finally taking that mid.
Yeah, they are down 2 players as the cap happened though, so red might be able to just come and swoop in and take the point back. As a matter of fact, it does seem like they're doing exactly that.
Players on the point trying to do the capture while at the same time defending the point. We've seen this not work in several teams' advantage, and it doesn't seem to be doing too much now. A lot of the sneakiness that was taken into effect in the first few moments has been almost obliterated, and now we're seeing a 1v1 or 1v4, I should say, on the point. It's not enough to be effective. It's not enough to be useful. This was a very fast turnaround for PNS Fish. Sorry, for PNS as a team. They are absolutely 100% dominant on this map to the extent that I don't even know what happened. That was extraordinary. That was Goof eating dirt. That was Goof being set on fire. That was Goof being stuffed down a small chimney, and PNS just dribbling lighter fuel all over their heads and taking them out without even buying them dinner first.
Yeah, that was a very dominant play by the blue team. They inserted their position there. It's red really didn't stand a chance. It was almost a very one-sided game, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I had expected a great deal more out of Goof. I genuinely would not have pinned this result. In fact, I didn't pin this result from the beginning. I'm taken aback by how solid an offensive action PNS were able to create, and more than just being offensive, as you called out earlier in the game, having taken the point and deciding to hide in an area right outside Goof spawn, to be in a position to say, not only am I taking this point, not only is this my point now, go away, it's my point, but also I'm going to be sneaky, I'm going to be offensive, I'm going to make you pay for having the audacity to respawn. That's the next level. That is taking your advantage and really milking it for all it's worth. PNS seem to be, I don't know whether they're the bad guys, but certainly the not the underdogs, shall we say, going into the next round. As they have done so, we will absolutely see them, almost certainly, assuming they manage to stay together for the few moments it takes to get us through to the grand final. We will see them there.
Yeah, we have the numbers on screen as well, and they reflect what we saw in a great deal. It's a very one-sided experience where the red team was down at almost 40 frags in total. There, like a deficit of 40 frags between the two teams. That's an insanely large number. Despite that, red did manage to get the first mid-fight in the second round, but was unable to clinch it from there. So, unfortunately, weren't quite able to bring it home, despite on a good start that second round.
I think notable there is the number of deaths, if nothing else. Frost and Dawson. Actually, interesting having Garden Fungus, who we've previously exalted as being a generally very good player in a lot of these Fortress face-offs. They're just massively outclassed. When key players are getting destroyed over and over again, I mean, maybe that was at least in some part of the downfall. When you're not able to keep your key players alive long enough to do significant damage, um, it's all doomed to failure. It's not going to work out terribly well.
Yeah, I think generally the whole, like, all of the stats pretty much reflect the fact that the red team was on the back foot for, yeah, almost the entire game, with very little individual stats to even show any form of retaliation there. Like, we have Garden Fungus, Benefactor, and Rez kind of putting up a fight, but really not. It's nothing significant, especially when you're looking at the kill death ratios on the blue side, the damage numbers on the blue side, and like the things like the amount of health kits. Just the amount of map presence was much larger from blue. And I mean, we saw this in game as well, with the blue players being able to play the map a little bit more, playing that high ground above the point, playing the hiding spots, and just generally just taking advantage of the lay of the land a little bit more.
Absolutely, playing the map is the phrase that I was missing up to this point. By the way, thank you very much for the hydrate. To appreciate that. Yeah, having the foresight of looking up the map and figuring out how things play within the map itself, finding like the back passes, ensuring that you make use of not just the passages but actually the nooks and crannies within them.
Yeah, there was this one play specifically I remember where the blue player was just hiding right outside of the red spawn, and nobody checked it. The whole red team just ran past it. It was very cheeky, and then they waited for the last guy, and they started attacking the slew of players from behind. It was a very patient maneuver. I think a lot of players would have like seen the first guy come out and maybe just jumped out and went for something, but no, they waited for the whole team to come out of respawn and really try to take them out one by one.
That points to a mindset where, as a player, you know the entire team is dead. You're waiting for everyone to run out of spawn, and seeing them run the way that is most advantageous to you. It's got to be like one of those hype moments where you think, yes, they're falling for it, and being able to take advantage of that and recognizing and realizing that everybody's going to start spooling out of that area.
It's very risky though, because one player checks that corner and it's over, because you're sitting in that stationary spot and you're just waiting for three people to start attacking you at once.
Yeah, that's it's a tough decision to play that, but as soon as it pays off for you, as soon as you've got those kills, or at least that one kill, it's caused disarray in the attacking team, and even before they manage to get to mid, they're at a disadvantage. They're a man down or person down, and they find themselves like wondering where the next attack is going to come from. It's a little bit like having somebody go play spy for a bit and getting that one backstab and causing the opposition to think, maybe we need to be worried about what's going to come around the next corner. And I think as casters and as an audience ourselves, we don't have to worry about what's coming around the next corner, because we get to see it live. We get to experience what's coming around the next corner in the form of the next match, which is coming up now. It is going to be Pyrotech versus Dunk, and we know a little bit about Dunk. We know they're a bit good. We don't know what Pyrotech has to offer.
You have to wait and see what map it's selected. It looks like we have Hangar being picked.
Excellent. Well, we get to see Hangar again, which is always good news. I have in the background in my ears, I can hear planes going over. So that was definitely a key indicator to me of what was going to be seen.
Is definitely there for this map. It's an astounding map to look at. It's great. So.
Well, I'm desperately hoping we get to see Valor and Relic, perhaps in the grand finals. Maybe with more maps to play, then maybe we'll see a little bit then. But of course, this is just the EU Fortress Faceoffs. There is going to be Fortress Faceoffs. What is that? Some sort of One Piece thing? Fortress Faceoffs. There is, of course, tomorrow going to be the North American Fortress Faceoffs, and it's later today. My apologies. Well, I'm being reliably informed that I'm wrong, which is not an experience that I unfortunately don't get to experience too often. But we're going to see a little bit of North America being played later today, so hopefully that is going to be an enjoyable experience. I'm sure it will be. And tomorrow we get to see awesomeness that is the bronze and grand finals tomorrow. So already good news for all of us. There's not just going to be more of this. There's going to be a lot more of this to come up. But for the time being, we get to see Hanger once again. Koth Hanger, release candidate 5B to give it its full title, which only goes to show that there will be more versions. Hopefully, an entire version that makes its way all the way through to Team Fortress 2 and then possibly out into the world of games that we get to play without having to all be Pyro. So that's always a possibility that we can look forward to in the future. But for the time being, Koth_Hanger is an experience to be played exclusively by Pyros. Lecter, yeah, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I did
stepped in
have
your way.
recently have the luxury to play this on a community server, like in an actual pub setting, and it was pretty enjoyable. There was a lot of action around the point, and not so much in the other areas, but that's kind of what you expect with the King of the Hill map anyway. So it was a good time.
Yeah, I think you need to have there's a number of people that need to be like it. A lot of Koth maps when you're playing 6v6 are all focused in a singular location. Whereas with Highlander, there's an expectation. I mean, an engineer is definitely going to be on the map. There is definitely going to be a teleporter. Whether or not it lasts for a very long time is another matter. I'm looking at the map, thinking, where would I set up a sentry? Where would I want to stay if I was a heavy medic combo? And there's so many opportunities, intricacies within a map like this. Although it feels to a certain extent somewhat flat, there is definitely a bunch of levels, not perhaps as high a vertical drop as you've seen within the last map that we played or the last map we viewed, but certainly this one step up, one step down, lower areas and upper areas or ground areas that cause a sense of almost an additional extra area to a map. Even though the central area, the cap point, appears to be on ground level, there's like ground and basement, all open air, theoretically all available for everyone. But the movement between those two layers is forced to the areas with steps if you're a pedestrian like Pyro, or the kind of like the concrete block with a ramp up to it, barrels on either side. You can definitely sneak up and down, but in terms of like pure gameplay, it's a level map with extra ups and downs that cause a different experience for players themselves to have.
Yeah, there's a lot of different routes as well, little hidey holes, and the things we saw in the last round or the last map. I mean, where there is some people hiding on little ledges and stuff like that. There's a lot of room for that here as well. Also, because of the fact that there's the outside area, which can be used as a flank. Usually you'll see people pushing through the shutter or the gate area, but you can see people running outside through the lobby or going all the way to luggage, and those can be very potent flanks as well as hiding spots. So there's a potential here for a lot of different ways of playing the map.
Yeah, having said that, I'm find myself while we're waiting to go live. I'm just sat on mid, watching the airplanes go by. I've kind of poked my nose out so I can stand next to the aircraft that's parked up, and I can see the helicopter hovering, apparently throughout the entirety of this map, just hovering over the heliport, just high enough that we can see it. But yeah, that's.
I
Some
think it
interesting
occasionally
things.
takes off. I might be mistaking it with the planes though. There's like some planes that take off and land and stuff. It's very cool because there's a blimp as well that they put in a lot of different
Yeah.
little what do you
Oh
call
my
that?
goodness.
Aircrafts? Yeah, I think that's the
Now
word.
that you mentioned it, I'm looking around. I see the red blimp slowly traversing its way across the skies, and that map, those skies are delicious in and of themselves. They are somewhat beautiful, blues and in the distance, kind of creamy reds. Hopefully, I've spoken about the possibility of ASMR. This map mode being ASMR. I do need to move away from looking at the skies in case I drift off with one of these clouds into a la la land, all of my own.
It definitely adds to the immersion as well. The planes taking off and landing sounds. Very relaxing.
Indeed.
The map has great atmosphere.
It has. There's also a lovely little lounge area as well. I'm looking at the red base on their lounge and looking at the posters telling us to visit Sujin, um, which is obviously a great destination for you to want to go to. But the idea that you could sit here in the lounge and look at the departure board for locations such as Bayer, Mercenary Park, and Paradise. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Paradise?
It's a great set of references that this map has, referencing other places within the TF2 canon like Rottenburg, Borneo,
Two
and
forts in Cairo.
two fort as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mercenary
very
Park.
cool things.
Oh yeah.
But enough of us chilling out in the relaxation lounge. Let us once again assume the position and get ourselves ready for what is almost certainly going to be quite an effort, quite an experience, and certainly something that we've not seen before. It is, of course, a Pyrotech versus Dunk. The matchup of 5v5 Pyro versus Pyro, the extraordinary adventure that is only available and can only be available on this channel, Fortress Faceoffs. I hope that you will enjoy it with us. My name is Aggro. That guy over there is Lecter, and behind the camera, MDL. But of course, a whole bunch of other people involved in Fortress Faceoffs as well. Here we go. We are moving forward to this semi-final match, and already there is action being held in the luggage area behind the points. Pyro all moving together as one big colossal snake of power and influence, taking down Dalibo, taking down Grip. My goodness me, Grip is gone already.
Yeah, this is a very dominant fight for the blue team. They took out the two top players for the red team, and then just snowballed it into a cap here. I remember last time we saw this map, it was an incredibly lengthy mid fight. I want to say it took almost a minute before they got the first cap in, and well, here we see the complete other end of it. We see a very fast and a very dominant mid.
Not only that, but they're holding themselves not quite on the point, but actually slightly behind it in most cases, with only Zero and Popsy forcing themselves out. That doesn't seem to have paid off for them, though. Although it's still 3 versus 4, it's almost certainly going to go the other way for them. Xeno and Popsy, the only two left alone, left alive, in making a bit of a resurface, though. But with Nupperus, the only person actually falling down in that particular push, it looks like Dunk has very much made their presence felt, and they have even done as much as capture the point while they're waiting for this other team to spawn in, as they have done so, and now pushing their way back out. They've got, I think, a little bit of a space for themselves. Grip finally taking on Krios, and no, they've decided to leave it alone. They're now sort of recuperating.
We were seeing a lot of different little scattered fights there. There was a lengthy fight in the shutter area where the red and the blue Pyro were trying to get each other, like using the corner and the shutters closing and opening. It was a very funny little interaction, but it does look like blue manages to get a couple picks here, and they'll probably manage to get the point off of it because it's a relatively large player advantage.
Yeah, Nuppius, the first time that I've seen them actually utilize that gas passer, get a team member soaked in gas and then not be able to capitalize on it, was quite incredulous, inconceivable to see, to bear witness to. A massive fight taking place in luggage. We have a lot of pyros going down, which seems to be the only class available to die or even to make a kill, but it is not a surprise for anyone watching for the last hour or two.
Yeah, the red team now turning more towards the point, trying to get that point time. But it looks like the blue team is still putting up good resistance here.
Yeah, Pyrotech managing to hold their own, not just in terms of their 1v1s and capturing and holding the point, but actually in terms of like not letting Red on the point long enough to make an effective move against it. Having said that, here come the Reds, here come Kaibo, here come Dalbor. Uh, as we know, these players are very capable of doing a lot of offensive damage. And while there's a massive exchange taking place, they seem to have been displaced from their natural habitat. Now, Grip has been allowed the opportunity to move forward against no one. I think Zero is the only player that he had a chance to set on fire. Zero finds health back, but also finds a bit of offense as well. Although, once again, being left alone long enough to allow this offensive Dunk team to get on point and to actually capture question mark, question mark. No, they haven't done so yet. The time is still ticking down for Pyrotech, and until such times as the last player goes over, that was a clock very much on the side of Pyrotech.
Yeah, the
Kibo.
red team kind of clawing back here when it comes to the time on the clock, and it looks like they're taking some 2v1s here and trying to trickle down the blue team as the blue team attempts to waddle at the point.
Yeah, we've mentioned before, like teams that appear to be incredibly well balanced. I would say that this is, in terms of action, in terms of actual fighting, two teams that are incredibly well balanced. It is just very peculiar to see either one of these teams actually make significant enough damage to hold not just their own but everyone's. I am absolutely at a loss to make any decision as to which team that I would say is an outright winner in terms of capabilities or creativity. But now we see, even with the red point being held, even with 60 seconds left on the clock, um, neither one team seems to be capable of making a significant play. Even as much as Grip going down once again, but Dalibor defending the control point for all their worth. They're really pushing in now. Krios is not going to be left alone, although they have taken a good health pack for themselves. It
The
doesn't mean
fight
that they're
going
going
all
to be
the way
left
into
alone.
the lobby. Wow.
That looked like their health pack was enough for them to make a difference themselves.
Yeah, that was quite incredible. It looked like the red team was really trying to push out that frag, but then the blue player finding that pack really turned that fight around. I think
Absolutely,
that
and
goes to show the power of the back scratcher right there, where the increased health really made a difference.
it's interesting seeing a back scratcher on the ground. That was clearly a player that thought that they could get in with another kill that way and not quite pulling it off. But timer falling on the side of Pyrotech once again.
It's getting very low on both sides. We have 14 seconds to 30 seconds, so this is a bit of a nail biter for both teams here.
Absolutely super tight as it can possibly be. 10 seconds left. Here we go. What can be happening in the last 10 seconds? This feels more like a basketball game than anything I've ever experienced before. Certainly in terms of Worlds of the Team Fortress 2, but a lot of effort being placed by this blue team to ensure that they get themselves on the timer. Even though the timer has gone all the way down, it's going to fall on the side of Pyrotech. They have the point right now. They very much want to hold on to the point, and it is going to be all up to Dunk to actually make a play here. They know they've got 10 seconds to go,
Yeah,
and
they're
so they're
grouping up
waiting for
together.
it.
They're waiting for the one push because they know if they get one good push, they got to get that point time, though. If they don't get the point time, they won't get the overtime.
Well, that's
they get a little
forcing
bit
them
of
into a
point
situation where they are now on the point themselves. They have nowhere to go but the point. They can't even afford to be held off for even a moment. This is finally numbers.
The air blast will come in clutch here if they manage to keep the blue players off the point, and it does seem like the air blast was enough to do the job.
I would have never have gauged that, but the Pyro backblast was all that it took to win that final point for themselves. I don't think Pyrotech were expecting that either. I saw them as being an incredibly dominant force, certainly against Dunk, certainly against anyone, I think, at this level. They are the dark horse of this round. They got through on a bye, but I don't think a bye is going to get them all the way through. They have got work to do to defeat Dunk.
Yeah, that was a very intense end of the round there. The red team grouping up because they knew they had a little bit of time left and just barely managing to make it to the point in time. Very well played by them.
But it doesn't necessarily follow that they'll be able to do it again. Dunk is very much forcing their way up against these players. 3 versus 1, and Krios actually holding their own actually pulling back into their teammate, and they've kind of done it. Wait, was that an oh my god barbecue that someone got there? Because if that was too awesome. Um, I unfortunately missed it. Hopefully, something will come up in the logs that we look at later. But either way, the point is in the hands of Pyrotech right now. Dunk falling in negativity, proving to be a positive force for this team so far, as they're pushing in against Iving, who we have seen play elsewhere. So they know that we have some experience with these players. But nonetheless, experience is one thing. You've got to capture the point. You've got to win the rounds. And right now, Dunk does not seem to be doing that. They have some awesome players, but it's not going to be enough to take the point from Pyrotech, who are just owning at the moment.
Yeah, the blue team did a really good job on that mid fight. At some point, they managed to get two players behind, and then they just created like this three-way pincer, and it was just very difficult for the remaining red players to do anything.
Speaking of the remaining red players, we've got Grip versus Kurios in a awesome fight. Not quite to the death, though. Kurios is being left allowed. And chat seems to have made their own decision about who they think is going to be winning. So perhaps with your own channel points, you should decide for yourself who you think is going to be taking this. Of course, a little bit. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of over or under predicting, given that Dunk already has a point on the clock. But I don't think Pyrotech can be dismissed quite so easily. Even right now, we find ourselves in a 5 versus 2 or 4 versus 2 scenario. Zeno being taken out, and Popsy also looks like they're about to lose their life, but actually Dalibor manages to lose it instead. It's Krios and Popsy ganging up together, and this is what we've seen time and time again when these players manage to cause or bring about a scenario where it is multiple players versus a singular player. It never goes the way of the singular player, or very rarely.
Yeah, it looked like Blue was making the common mistake of sending players one by one and not really waiting for their respawners. But then it ended up turning into an advantage for Blue as Dalibor got a little bit too deep.
Thank you very much for the hydration in chat. I am definitely going to take use of that while I gulp down this liquid. Oh, I hope you heard that. That was the sound of enjoyment. That's Pyrotech also sounding off their enjoyment right now. The clock is 100% in their ballpark, in their squad.
Very chaotic fight with some blue players coming from the red side during the fight. Actually managing to take out the bulk of the red players and winning the fight here, despite it looking despite them not looking favored at the start of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I say the sense of ownership seems to be very much with Pyrotech. I'm seeing Zero right now. I'm wondering, are they hanging out? They're hanging out in a corner. Are they hanging out in a corner looking for ammo, or are they just hanging out in a corner looking for someone to go behind? Well,
looked like an ambush play, yeah.
Yep. I mean, didn't necessarily work out for them, but still, like, weirdly, the numbers seem to be on the side of Pyrotech. How are there always more players on Pyrotech than there are on Dunk?
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive considering that they have the point, and so their respawns are so much slower. You would expect the red team to get like a pick and then maybe make some space out of that, but it's not really going that way. Though of course, as I say that, the blue player does get dropped and a second player gets dropped, and so suddenly the red team is the one taking the point.
Well, they need to be. The time has completely whittled its way down to 0 for Pyrotech. All they need to do now is say, like, it's an easy thing to do, but all they need to do in the next 1 minute and 40 seconds is capture the point just once, and they've won. So everything is on the line at the moment, and don't these guys know it? So Grip is hanging out and doing a little bit of a pooty match with Krios. Has to leave them alone, though. Note they can't actually abandon the point at all at any stage, which is really forcing them into a scenario that they don't want to necessarily be in, and in fact has done for them completely.
Yeah,
because
this looks pretty over right now with the 4 players on the blue side swarming the point. Grip trying to make a stance, trying to push them off, and actually does manage to get a grip on the point. Grip, and then his teammate coming in. So they're able to stall a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's enough,
No,
sadly.
absolutely
But
not.
we do go to a third round.
I wish I had put some points into this one, because this looks like it's gonna be the closest round we've had so far. Pyrotech coming out of nowhere, offering a reasonable resistance to Dunk. Not quite enough to do enough damage in the first place, but nonetheless turning it around. Now they've got a bit more experience on the map. Now they know what to expect. Now they know how to play this map. And I think the strat they're using is go in, provide almost a almost bait, and then moving back when they seem to be just about to lose it, moving back to the rest of the team and allowing the rest of the team to take the chaser out. And right now, a lot of the team for Dunk has been taken out. Not necessarily that method. I think a lot of DM took place right there. But now
Seeing another melee
Dalibor
frag.
Danibor out on their own, waiting for the rest of the team, obviously, to come in order to provide some support. Here we've got a couple of players joining them. I think now they're going to start moving forward. Although Eng very much in that ambush position as they've been before, not really able to make full use of it. But here we go. Here is the exchanges, quite close to the point itself. Grip making a lot of movement choices right there. Not able to find health pack in time and goes down. So with Grip gone, can the rest of the teammates make any real sense of a change on the map itself? Iving going out with very little health left in that final exchange. Dalibor left on their own. Quite clearly, the last horse in the race, going up against Krios, taking the attack from above. Popsy is finally able to take down Dalibor, and the exchange finally falls in the favor of Dunk as they are capping at a rate of 2x. I think they're waiting for the last one to join before they finally cap it off, and they did get there in
Yeah,
time.
that's a pretty
So now,
smart play by the red team, waiting for their teammate to respawn so they don't get delayed. It did take a
absolutely.
while for them to find any real foothold in this round. They kept losing the fights, and they kept not really finding any picks to work with.
Yep, Popsy going in on their own, seeing if they can make some sort of play against negativity, perhaps doing the old bait and switch once more time, but it's not really worked out for them this time. Potato left out on their own versus 3, versus 4, with a cheeky play by Kaibo coming in, making the flank movement. I would expect these players to run around at this point and get any sense of health that they can possibly find on the map. They're not choosing to do so, certainly in the case of Kaibo, who has been left with almost nothing in terms of health after a little long distance battle versus Potato. But nonetheless, perhaps they're going to run away. Yep, doing the right thing, picking up the health now. And with both teams at 100% health, it is falling on the likes of Grip to do their damage, moving in with Dalibor. Now the two of them going up against Krios. Krios,
It looks like we do have a bit of a pause here.
it is a pause. It's the first time I've seen a blimp, a helicopter, and a plane just holding in the sky.
Yes,
That
suspended
is
so perfectly in the air.
that is such a weird thing to see. And unexpectedly, the crash is something that happens to all of us, but unfortunately has happened to one of these players. So I'm
The
sure
TF2 gods
we
are not
will.
merciful on this one.
Indeed. We'll see one of the players wink out of existence in a moment or two, but while we wait for this, it is worth pointing out that we are behind the reality of time that the players exist in. So we're gonna have to wait for a moment or two to see how this resolves. But actually, in the real world that the players are playing in, of course, was it a minute and a half? Was it 45 seconds? I'm not
I think
quite
it's
sure how
45
long.
seconds, yeah.
Well, 45 seconds wasn't long enough to cause anyone to capture the point or to hold it. So perhaps nothing will be resolved until we actually get back. But with the
I must
hydration in chat, I'm going to make full use of it now. Here comes the unpause.
I must say I'm getting a new appreciation for the cool visuals that happen with all the fire particles, the man melter shots, the dragon tree shots. There's definitely a certain amount of spectacle when it comes to seeing all of the action unfold. Looks like a big
Absolutely.
scuffle though. Red team dropping some players. Seems pretty balanced. Still pretty balanced 2v2, and then the red team pulling out on top. I
Who would
think
have thought it?
the player lagging out or crashing will be any second now. So we're gonna see if that makes a significant impact on the round, as it does take a little bit of time for them to pop back into existence. Yeah, there was the pause.
Yep. And game is being unpaused now, so I'm not sure which player it was that dropped out, but they're all back in force now, with the entirety of Pyrotech moving in as if it's one large chunk of a turtle with a pyrotechnic fuse in its mouth, pushing in hard on this point itself. Everybody has been clustered together so effectively. Dunk managing to pull something out of their pyro bag of tricks and getting a lot of damage going into the last player of Potato, and that was one shard, Crispy Potato, that managed to remain alive for the longest time, but not quite long enough to allow the rest of their teammates to spawn in. Having said that, though, effort is now being placed. There's only 15 seconds left
There's
on
a
the
lot of
side
pressure
of
on the blue
Dunk.
team to push in here.
They have got to get in. They've got to make a play. They've got to do something in order to
10
turn
seconds and
things
all of
around.
red is still up.
And they are finding themselves in a terrible situation. Although, having said that, grip is very low, but not enough to actually die. And the round, and
There
in
it is.
fact, the entirety of the map falls the way of Dunk. I certainly could not have predicted that that was how things were going to turn out as the maps ticked over one by one. But Dunk, nonetheless, proved to be victorious in this particular situation. I would have loved to see these teams play against each other. I'd have loved to see them in a semi-final or in a grand final, I should say, where there are more maps on the line than just the best of one. But in
Yeah,
this best of one scenario, Dunk came out on top.
yeah, it was a very tense match. The first round was a very balanced one. The second round, it seemed like the blue team was very dominant, and then on the last round, really the red team just they took hold of the match again. It was a very back and forth in that sense. It wasn't, I
Absolutely.
wouldn't say it was close in the same way as that canopy match we had earlier, but it was more close in a sense that, yeah, the teams they had different, like in different rounds had a stronger or a weaker hold on the map. Like it was yeah, just very back and forth like that, like a ping pong, if it was dominant essentially.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always a sense when you're playing in these kind of tournaments and you get a bye when you effectively are allowed to go through to the next round without having playing your match. That you feel like you've got a freebie. It's like, yay, I'm through to the next round. But of course, the thing you miss out on is the experience. You miss out on playing against your peers, playing against a team that you actually stand a chance of both being beaten by and defeating. And having that sense of cohesion that forms as a result of playing those matches. I think Pyrotech, when they went into this, they were lacking that to a certain degree. They didn't have that sort of that win under their belt. And so in the first map, the first round of the first map, they couldn't possibly defeat Dunk, and yet as soon as they'd played one round, they knew what they had to do, and their stratagem of providing a bait candidate and pulling back to another team member, forcing Dunk, who are clearly a very aggressive team, into a situation where they think they've got the upper hand. It's a Sun Tzu moment here, where they think they've got the upper hand, and yet, as the map rolls out, as the match rolls out, as the fight rolls out, they suddenly find themselves outnumbered through nothing more than charging on and trying to fully affect or trying to make the difference. They That was a thing that they clearly weren't expecting, and Pyrotech maximized on that and really took full advantage of it. But once you've played that particular strat out once, that's the only chance you get. And I think what we actually saw in the end was Dunk recognizing that they were being dunked on, that they're recognizing they're being taken advantage of, and they built an alternative stratagem. They recognized that actually finishing off those players, finalizing it, and taking the win was not going to be the right strat to play against Pyrotech. Pyrotech didn't change. Pyrotech had a winning stratagem that they just weren't able to evolve into the final rounds. A lot of it could have gone either way. Two fine teams, and being able to experience that gameplay and feel it for ourselves. I don't think either one of us would say that any particular player, any particular team did badly in that match. But Dunk, I think they evolved and they changed, and their gameplay was exactly what it needed to be in order to prove a win here.
Yeah, I guess we do have to address the fact that one of the blue players did experience some technical issues, which is obviously a shame. See here that they're saying that the player lagged out during the last push, which is well almost the most decisive moment. It's that last moment when you really need to clench that cap. So that's a very unlucky thing, and you hate to see it. Honestly, you obviously always want the thing to be the games to be, as yeah, you don't really want technical issues to be the reason that a loss happens, or that like, because even the smallest little thing can change the outcome of the game. So that's very unfortunate that had to happen.
For sure, absolutely. I mean, the idea that you're gonna lose because of a technicality is extraordinary. It's a weird that they won because of a technicality last time round, and they lost because of a technicality this time round. I feel so badly for Pyrotech in this particular instance. And again, as a team, I really hope to see them again. I hope we get to see them experience this game. I mean, obviously we will do in the third place match at some time in the very near future. But I think that they stand a good chance of doing very well.
Yeah, I mean, we
Um,
didn't get to see them in quarters, but
yep.
it really, like, in this semifinals, you could tell that their level was there. They were putting in the work. They were able to compete with the dunk team, which we've seen already deliver some really quality matches. So they're definitely up there when it comes to, in terms of like the coordination and the being able to land the shots and work together as a team. So yeah, it's unfortunate what went down.
But at the same time, I think we're too easily dismissing Dunk. I mean, Dunk seem to be a team that have got their stuff together. They figured out what it is, or what is required in terms of winning. We saw them against Soup, and they seem to very much hold their own. Again, in a map or match that was very evenly based, they did just enough to pip them over the post to ensure that they became the winners. And anyone who is capable of level pegging against another team, but doing just that little bit extra, is always going to come out as a strong contender. I think as we move towards grand finals, we're going to see a very interesting match. PNS Puff and Sting has been absolutely dominant so far against everyone they've played. They've played some really, really strong matches where it almost made you wonder why the other team bothered turning up. But Dunk has gone, I think, the harder path, where they've played against teams that they clearly had a chance against, but it was by no means a done thing. And we're going to see a hardened team versus a dominant team, and that's going to be a really cool grand final.
Yeah, for sure. I will mention real quick, in regards to the log, we had a taunt kill last round. I didn't actually notice
Yeah,
this during the match, and we didn't have a freak out over it. But if I had noticed it, there was definitely going to be a freak out, because it's
I was
incredibly rare. Obviously, the man melter has a taunt kill, so seeing that's, I mean, hats off, dude. That's crazy.
100%. I saw something funky come up on the kill feed and thought that can't be real. I must be misunderstanding this. But yeah, that's 100% brilliant stuff. I hope that maybe if not now, then maybe we get to go back into the dem files and play that back. Perhaps when this hits the YouTubes, if it ever does, we'll see that for ourselves. Or perhaps we'll have to go back and play the dem files for ourselves to see who got that legendary maneuver. But I'd be very surprised to see that in the grand finals. Nonetheless, it's glorious to see it at this level.
Well, there are some maps that have little corners, little cubbies, little hiding spots. So if you time that taunt kill well, and someone turns that corner right at the right moment, like, there's some real chance for a competitively viable tog kill if the right player does the right thing at the right time. But at the same time, the odds are against you if you try that, and if someone finds you out, then well, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you find yourself very much at a disadvantage, and it's great fun. I love the fact that there's almost, apart from pride, there is nothing on the line for these players. So yeah, opportunities for being a little bit quirky, a little bit interesting. But of course, if it ends up being you've suddenly caused yourself to your team to be a man down and being overwhelmed by sheer numbers, then you start to feel bad about the decisions you've made. Particularly if everyone else has put so much effort into to get so far. But nonetheless, still ultimately a gorgeous little moment there. But we've seen some quirky little plays take place. The use of secondary devices. It's not all M1 mouse, WM1. There's a lot of interesting things happening on these maps. And as you say, when by all means point out those melee kills, because they do seem to be so important. Nonetheless, there is a message from chat right now telling us all to get some juices inside us. So I'm sucking down the old gamer subs now. And we thank chat for the opportunity to do so. Right, here we go. So we have got a little bit of time now, I'm sure, while we're waiting for... waiting for ourselves to get back into the world of normality. There is going to be more coming up today? Question mark?
Yeah, later today at 19 CEST, so in about 2.5 hours from now, there will be the NA side of the group, the start of playoffs. So what you had here on the corners and semis, the NA side of that will be later today in 2.5 hours from now.
Excellent. Well, I will almost certainly be watching that from the perspective of a punter. But for the time being, I think this is me gone. So I want to say massive thank you to everyone at Fortress Faceoffs, giving me the opportunity to come in here and say some words to an unsuspecting audience. If you want to find out more about Critscast, by all means, look up Critscast on all of the things. We are all of the places, KRITZKST. I'm sure. Oh, well, thank you very much for the message in stream. I do appreciate that. Find us everywhere. Lecter, any shout outs you want to make from your side?
Shout outs to the fans, shout outs to everybody at home, shout outs to everybody who watched and enjoyed, and shout outs to everybody at production, anybody who did anything, whether it's providing servers, helping playtest, doing the visuals, anything. Like there's a lot of work put in, and it's a great team to work with. Like y'all are crazy.
For sure. There's just so many people involved. Like at this point, like shouting out any one individual is futile, since there are so many human beings that going into putting forward an event like this, putting forward production like this, and all of them working together as part of a team. It just makes you proud to be like a Team Fortress 2 citizen. Massive shout out to chat, of course, who have helped us drink easy throughout the entirety of this stream, and I very much hope that you will be finding yourselves joining in when it comes to the subsequent matches, the subsequent experience, and good luck to all of the teams as they embark upon their experience of Fortress Faceoffs, hopefully not for the last time. My name is Agro. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to Lecter and to Maindu Tulua, or MDL as known to us behind the camera. We'll see you shortly.
Bye.